What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 70 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
And I mean, there's a lot to talk about today. You know, we were kind of thinking about going live yesterday, but then I think we kind of thought about the Pete Carroll press conference. So we decided to save it for today. That is probably going to be like our first major topic that we'll talk about. But first, we want to quickly recap the NFC Championship game and AFC Championship games. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the NFC Championship game, in which the Commanders lost 23-55 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Man, it was a close game. You know, Jaden Daniels brought it felt like a one-possession game that should have been a wider margin throughout, very early on in the game. And I think Mike and I were texting about it throughout the game in our group chat. And it was like, man, I don't know how it's still just a one possession game, you know? And, and so before we knew it, it was 14-12, you know, Jaden Daniels led a touchdown drive. It was 14-12. And then the next time he got the ball, it was 27-12. So, the Commanders didn't really give him much of a chance. We thought that Jaden Daniels would be the one reason why Washington would have an opportunity to win, but I think the Eagles were just the better team. They had a better offensive line. They had, much better defense and, much better running back. I don't know. What were your immediate thoughts on the game, Mike?
Well, I think it's the tale of the playoffs this year have been the teams that win the turnover battle win the game. Mm-hmm. And Washington had 4 turnovers in this game, and the Eagles had none. That's all it really took, I think, because like you said, it was weird. It felt like it was a 2, almost 3 possession game, like most of this game, like the entire first half. The entire time, it was a 1 possession game. I think part of the reason why it felt like that was because a lot of it was 8 points. So it's like, oh, they need a 2-point conversion too. But, the way that it went about, it felt like, no, this is a 2 possession game. And then you realize, no, this is a 1 possession game. Like, Jaden Daniels can still do this. And then I want to say it was just before halftime, they had the kick return. Like you said, it was 12-14. Commanders might be coming back. And then they fumble on the kickoff, right? The guy gets hit from behind on the arm, fumbles it. Eagles get the ball, another touchdown, right?
I think that might have been after the Eagles had just scored a touchdown, and then obviously, kicking it back off to the Commanders, and then he fumbled it. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, all right, the Commanders are going to have an opportunity to come back and, either make this a 1 possession game, or I think maybe at the time it was like, if they would have went for 2, I don't exactly remember the math at the time.
Yes.
But then it was just like, man, they right before halftime gave the Eagles another opportunity at the 30-yard line, set up right in the red zone. And it's like, well, the wheels are falling off the Commanders train, the Commanders train, because the Eagles were also going to get the ball at halftime.
Yes. So with a minute 44, Jalen Hurts got a 1-yard rushing touchdown. That put the Eagles up 20-12. And then came the fumble on the kickoff. Then they quickly go down with 40 seconds left. A.J. Brown, 4-yard touchdown, 27-12. And then the Commanders did get a field goal before the half. But like you said, Eagles get the ball coming out of the half. And the second half, it was just all Eagles besides one, Jaden Daniels touchdown in the third quarter. But, I think like I said, it was the turnovers and it was Saquon, really. And honestly, watching this game, I think Jalen Hurts was dialed in. He looked efficient. He was making all the passes. And the Eagles make it simple for him. I like the Chiefs obviously have a great team. We'll get to them in a second, but when you talk about a team surrounding a quarterback with talent and with, the ability to win because on all other phases of the game, your team is special and built to win, that's the Eagles. And, you know, when we had our podcast last week, I ended up convincing myself in picking the Commanders. And then Saturday, I texted you that unfortunately I'm switching my pick. And that was in part because I saw that Deron Payne was out, and I was just like, if you're going to be missing defensive linemen against this offensive line and Saquon Barkley, it's not going to go well for you, you
Yep.
know? And you pair that with the Eagles arguably having the best defense in football this year. At the very least, having the hottest defense in football, I think. I started coming to my senses that the Eagles are going to win this game, and they're just too stacked. Their offensive line, the run game, when Jalen Hurts is playing good, their passing game. I mean, look at AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, but also in this game, I want to say Brent Selleck, Dallas Goedert was utilized quite a bit. They were performing in all facets of the game, and I hope that they do it again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Dallas Goedert had a sneaky good. He was really good in this game, and it's funny because I was watching with Pia's family, in their living room, and Pia's dad had just, he had just come into the room, and then he goes, I want to say the score might have been like 14-6, right? And he was like, every time that I see, that I start watching the game, the Commanders have the ball. The Eagles haven't had the ball. And I'm like, well, yeah, the time of possession was really crazy at the beginning of the game because it was like 14-6, and the Eagles only had like 2 minutes and 15 seconds of possession time because of how quickly they scored. I missed it. You know what I mean? I missed the first touchdown one of the first touchdowns. I saw the Saquon touchdown on the replay, but like I was trying to fix something on the TV, and before I knew it, it was 14-6. I could not believe it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The first one I want to say was the Saquon with the spin move and all that, which was a beautiful play. The first drive, the Commanders took forever. They took half the first quarter just to
and
get
they
a
went
field
for
goal.
it on fourth down like
twice at least.
Yeah, 2 times.
Yeah, and then they settled for the field goal once they got in range, and it was like, oh man, like I don't know if it was like 4th and 5, 4th and 7 when they had the field goal attempt, but it's like I feel like the way that they've been playing all year, maybe they should have gone for that. Because, like I said, the reason why I initially picked the Commanders was if Jalen Hurts has a bad game and you pair that with the Commanders getting off to a hot lead, then you're forcing the game into Jalen Hurts' hands when what the Eagles want is to put it in Saquon's hands. And we got the latter, and then we got the outcome that we got, right?
Yeah.
So, settling for a field goal after taking half the quarter, that doesn't really work out when 3 plays later, Saquon Barkley goes off for a 60-yard touchdown. Then you get the ball back, you end up punting, and then another Saquon Barkley touchdown. And like you said, you're down 14-3.
I actually don't have a massive issue with them taking the points on that 4th and 3, because it felt like really risky when they went on it, like on 4th and 5. And then at a certain point, it's like, your luck's going to run out. So they just decided to take the points. I had no issue with that. I think like clearly it was the turnovers that killed them. And, as 49er media, tuning back into the show says, Commanders shot themselves in the foot with turnovers. That was really the story of the game.
Yeah.
Like once you go from 14-12 to next time you actually give your quarterback, who's your best player, the chance to possess the ball 27-12. I'm sorry, the game, you're gonna need a miracle in order to come back. Like, I don't know. It was just bad, and so we got half of the outcome that we did not want, and then so I guess we'll talk about the other outcome after I take a couple comments. 49er Media, like I said, is tuning back in. It says sub Josh and Mike, sub Niner Media.
So
He says the intro is fire. Yeah, we're actually going to need, probably we're going to have to redo our intro to either replace a couple clips or maybe just do a new one from scratch. If you go back to like the old ones from last season, they're slightly different. They had Josh McDaniels before, and I'd say they're slowly getting better. And I could just imagine with Pete Carroll, it's gonna be even better.
Yeah, literally, when we fired it up, I was like, all right, chances are we're not going to have a pod next weekend. I think now is the time. Now that we have some clips of Pete Carroll, now is the time to change up, because I'm tired of seeing some of these, Antonio
Like
Pierce, Devontae Adams. Yeah, it's like, come on, it's time to update it a little bit.
Speaking of Devontae Adams, I still need to go on my Rocky montage, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, we only have one YouTube short posted on the channel, and you will see the bet that Mike made. Mike said I get to punch him live, so I can't even just do a video. It's got to be on a live stream, huh, Mike? No, we can do a video,
or we could do it in a video, but then we could drop it live.
But it was if Devontae got traded to the Jets, so
yeah.
And literally like 10 days later it happened, or whenever it was. And then yeah,
good point.
This is a really good point by 49er Media. He says, crazy how refs almost awarded the Eagles a touchdown. I figured at a certain point it would get to like, there has to be a rule in there somewhere where if you just keep committing like offsides penalties and prolonging the game, it just like, the half the distance just is too close and they just rule it a touchdown. But I never knew if it was like actually a thing because I've never seen it before. But like, for example, when there's a holding call in the end zone, right? That's a safety. So this is like the defense committing a penalty just over and over. It's almost like if you were doing this in Madden, you would if this happened in Madden, the Commanders would have already gotten kicked out of the game for griefing, right? Because Frankie Louvu just kept jumping over the line of scrimmage trying to stop the tush push. And I mean, I love the memes that have come out from it. Right. And I honestly love the effort. And I can't really say that I really love the tush push because I don't. Like, it just feels dirty that, like, I don't know. It's, people say, well, it's like a rugby scrum, but isn't a scrum in rugby like when they drop the ball, that's when both teams start moving? If you give the offense knows the snap count, the defense doesn't. So already it's an advantage to the offense. I get it. All teams can't utilize it. It's kind of boring, but
yeah, I think it was funny. Like, okay, who did the Eagles play last week?
Eagles played the Rams.
The Rams. I don't know if it was the Rams or the Commanders, but somebody. No, it wasn't the Packers. It might have been the Rams. Somebody was able to stop the tush push a couple times. This playoff,
Yeah, I think it might have been the Rams.
Yeah, I think it was because it is a high efficiency play. And I saw, more of the conversation of like, we need to ban the tush push. Like, football should be fun and not, 4 straight penalties and refs threatening to force a score, And I was like, yeah, like this was the first time where I really sat there like, this is a little ridiculous, my personal opinion is the play will not be banned until Jalen Hurts tears his ACL or gets a really bad injury of some kind during a tush push, or an offensive lineman. That's the only way.
You want to know what? The play will be banned the minute that the Eagles just decide to abandon their entire offense and get 4 yards per carry on the tush push and don't run any other play. And they milk the clock the entire game. They just, they get the opening kickoff and just tush push.
I think it'll be banned when they use it on the Chiefs and win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks.
You know what? That's an even better point. Disregard what I said. Mike is the smart one in this podcast. So,
but regardless, it was funny watching Frankie Louva do that. And I after the first one, I was like, damn, like he timed a couple blitzes earlier in the game. Like Frankie Louva looked like he had a good game until he didn't, There was one blitz on like a 3rd or 4th down where I was like, wow, like that was impressive. And then, of course, he tried it on that one, and it looked like a Polamalu attempt, but he mistimed it. I don't know if Jalen Hurts suspected they would try to time it and was just trying to get them off sides or something. But they're already on the 2-inch, hard count. They're already on the 2-inch line, so it's like there's not much more to be done here. But after Louva did on the first one, they lined back up, practically no difference. And I literally said to my dad, I was like, he's going to do it again. And the reason why was because they were down, I think, 34-23. Yes, they were down 34-23, early 4th quarter. So they're currently down 11 points, right? It's a 2-possession game. If you somehow stop the Eagles and you force a field goal, you're down 14. You're still alive. Like the Commanders can come back from that. You give up the touchdown, it's over. Like the likelihood of coming back just skyrocketed downwards for them. And the only thing you could do is just keep trying to jump the pile. And if he makes that tackle, like right on hike, grabs Hurts and pulls him backwards, and it's suddenly, 3rd and 3, there's no more tush push. Like I was just like, I don't care. You have to do it again.
Well, if you pull him back, it's going to be forward progress.
Then still on hike, you're going back a yard. So then you're on the 2-yard line, let's say. Right?
Yeah, but theoretically, he takes the snap, right? That's his most forward, position while possessing the ball and then getting pulled back. At very least, he would be maybe half a yard back because of, the center going from where his hand was on the football to snapping it, would be maybe a yard, but
maybe depends on how well he times it. But regardless, that is another reason why the tush push is so controversial, is because there's no other way of defending it other than just getting as low as you can or jumping the pile on the perfect timing and risking a penalty anyways. But I don't think there's much else to say on this game other than Zach Ertz having a really good game and, being a guy that used to play for the Eagles and is still searching for that Super Bowl win. It sucked for players like him to see them lose. Whereas like a guy like Jaden Daniels has his entire future ahead of him. And if the Commanders, who have like the 3rd most cap space this year, I want to say, if not like the most.
You said Zach Ertz?
Zach Ertz.
Didn't he win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles? Was he on that team?
I'm not sure. Maybe he did. Maybe, but I want to say he's still looking for it. You could search up if he has a Super Bowl.
Yeah, he won in 2018. So,
well, there you go. Then I don't know what he's bitching about. So,
I think
that's all I have.
Yeah, he might have been injured that season though. So
maybe.
So there's a chance that he didn't necessarily get to go on a Super Bowl run, but he did win that ring. But I did think of this idea just now, and the way to stop the tush push is you need Myles Garrett to stand up, and instead of taking the quarterback's helmet from him, take his teammate's helmet so you don't get a face mask penalty. And then you smack the shit out of the quarterback on the head and concuss them and get them out of the game so they can't run it anymore. I mean, you get ejected and maybe banned from football, but I mean, that would stop it for that day.
Yeah.
Horrible idea. But speaking of horrible ideas, the Commanders did have Marshawn Lattimore just getting bullied the entire day by AJ Brown and Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Who else are the Commanders cornerbacks? Because it just felt like Marshawn Lattimore was getting picked on. There was that one play I do remember on one of the tush pushes where AJ Brown was blocking Lattimore and then like started to take his helmet off, and only Lattimore got penalized for it. I kind of felt like you either penalize both or I guess typically it's the second guy who gets caught. But I really feel like the appropriate penalty should have been offsetting.
Perhaps. I think part of it for me was, I think watching it, obviously they're both going for each other's helmets, but I think the way that they did it was a little different, where Lattimore purposefully like went for the face mask and pulled up, whereas AJ Brown, I think he had both hands and like just so happened to get the helmet off. Or at least he made it look like that. Yes, Mike Sanders. So I want to say I mentioned him a week or two ago, and I couldn't remember if he was on the Commanders or not, but I thought he was. He looks like a stud for Washington, but they traded for Lattimore, and obviously it didn't quite work out the way that they had hoped. I mean, this game around halftime started looking like, not quite so peak Bucks Saints with Lattimore and Mike Evans, because those two suddenly just started hating on each other in the middle of this game.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's a perfect time to switch it over to the AFC Championship. Mike, this one is arguably even worse. Just the fact that the Chiefs are going to be going back to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen loses again to the Chiefs for the fourth time in the past 5 years in the playoffs. He's got to be going crazy over there. It's like Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. I don't know how to explain this. That's usually how it starts when I'm about to say something like really hot.
Yeah.
Not hot like sexually, but hot like hot takey,
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, you can say both. Freedom of
yeah.
speech,
Yeah. Okay, as a kid, when I first got into football, like immediately, because I'm a competitive person, I'm like a natural competitor. I just want my team to win, right? If I'm playing baseball, I'm not there to have fun. At least as a kid, I wasn't there to have. Nowadays, I can be there to have fun, right? I still want to win, but if I'm playing baseball with friends, which I haven't done in a long time, I'm probably there at this stage of my life to have a fun time, and in the back of my head, do what I can to win, right? As a kid, I don't know what it is. All that matters is that I win, right? T-ball, maybe not T-ball, but little league. Like, you just want to win. So then when I get into football, 2010 as a Raider fan, no idea just quite how bad they are. That shit hurts, okay? That shit hurts. So, I've had my fair share of moments growing up as a Raider fan, feeling this extreme level of pissed off for losing. When I watched the Kansas City Chiefs in AFC championships and Super Bowls, that feeling comes back. Because I just want the team that's playing them to fucking beat them. And every time, almost every time, somehow, some way, it can't fucking happen. And it's not even just annoying, it genuinely pisses me off. Oh my God. And I know what's going to happen because it used to be the same way with the Patriots for me, where every year it didn't fucking matter. I just saw a thing just the other day leading up to this game of like, okay, since 2000, can you tell me which Super Bowl? I might have told this to you. Can you tell me which Super Bowl didn't have one of Tom Brady Pat Mahomes, Peyton Manning, or Ben Roethlisberger in it? Can you tell me which
was
Super Bowl that was?
the Rams versus Bengals.
Sorry, I guess AFC Championship. Sorry, that AFC Championship had Mahomes in it, so I guess it's AFC Championships.
Okay.
Can you tell me which AFC Championship didn't have one of those 4 quarterbacks? So Patriots, Broncos/Colts, Chiefs, Steelers.
Didn't have the Patriots. Didn't have. Oh God. Which one was it?
2002, Rich Gannon, Raiders versus Titans, 2002.
Oh.
That's the last time, and that's a fun Raiders plug, but really it's a sad. Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes have owned this league for the past 15 plus years because that wasn't even the same thing that I saw. That was a different one. The one that I saw recently was like a picture of like the last 7 or 8 AFC championships. Mahomes has been in every single one at home. Before that, every single AFC championship, Patriots, every single one. Maybe one where it was Manning, right? Versus Steelers or some shit.
Yeah.
Regardless, like, point being, before this Mahomes feeling for me, it was Brady. And now in hindsight, it's like, I appreciate the greatness of Tom Brady. And obviously, and that was like, once he went to the Buccaneers, my opinion of him changed, especially when he won the Super Bowl. And it helped that it was against the Chiefs. Also, just worth noting right now, the only person that has beaten Mahomes in the AFC Championship, other than I guess Joe Burrow, is Tom Brady. So Brady has beat him in the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. Just want to throw that out there for anybody that watches this video. And also, we really need the Bengals to get back into form because apparently Joe Burrow is the only other guy that can do it.
Well, he's also lost to Mahomes, a couple times too. So I wouldn't say like it happened once. I wouldn't say they have exact dominance over the Chiefs.
No, they don't have dominance, but it's just nobody else can do it. Apparently, Josh Allen can't. Right in the regular season, sure, but once it's the playoffs and it's fucking crunch time, and the referees are there realizing that that it actually means something. Now the Chiefs have to win every single time. My whole point is, like, I used to feel this way for the Patriots, and I was able to turn that into like, wow, I really appreciate that greatness. But this time, dude, I don't think I can. I really like this is a different level of like pissed off for me. I'm so tired of it. It's not even funny.
Okay, let's compare and contrast real quick because there are similarities and differences between the Patriots, dynasty and this current Chiefs dynasty. So this Chiefs dynasty is like it's now, man. All right. I've never ever seen like Brady's was like a 20-year like dominance, just not exactly it was on and off. It was like, he started off with like a couple early on and then like towards like the middle, like, like his late 30s really like started, winning again. And then early 40s, he started, winning again.
Yep.
Mahomes, ever since he became the starter, has just been at the top. It's like, I have never seen a team in football at this level where, all right, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen probably both have Super Bowl rings by now if it's not for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
Joe Burrow missed his opportunity. He'll probably get another opportunity maybe later down the line. But, if the Chiefs keep this up, their defense is so damn good. Spagnuolo is so damn good. Their coaching, they're so prepared. They're just more prepared than everybody else. Where the Patriots are different. So I feel like there's this Disney sort of feel to the Chiefs, whereas the Patriots was like from a more rough era in the NFL where it was harder hitting and like everything was harder. And then so like there's also all the cheating surrounding the Patriots dynasty as well with Spygate and then Deflategate. This right now feels like, oh my God, it's everything works out in the end. And then, Taylor Swift, like kind of just swag surfing in the press box or whatever you want to call it, like when they go side to side. I don't know if I'm like saying it right. Caitlin Clark is like, right next to her, and then everybody lives happily ever after. That's what it feels like. It feels like I'm watching a Disney movie when it comes to the Chiefs. But it's
it's a Disney movie where the villains are winning.
No. It's a Disney movie from the perspective of the Chiefs.
Okay, yes. But from the perspective of everybody else, it's the villains. And
the Patriots before, the Patriots were like Star Wars before Disney.
Right.
Like that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah. So and respectfully, the Patriots were very much the bad guys in large part. Like they were the actual bad guys because of the spying or, cheating scandals, right? Like that made them even worse. And yet I can come out of that going, well, I appreciate the greatness, mostly with Brady and Belichick. And like, don't hear me wrong here. I do appreciate Andy Reid and Spagnuolo. They are great, and I have nothing but good things to think about them. It's just that I'm preying on their fucking downfall. It's Mahomes and it's Travis Kelce and everybody that they bring along with them that I just can't fucking stand anymore. And of course, it's because it's the Chiefs. So the logo is a big part of it versus this logo on my head, right? Yeah. That's a big part of it. And it's the fact that it's so consistent. It's the fact that they've been to the AFC Championship 7, if not 8 straight years. It's the fact that, they have an opportunity to be the first team to win 3 straight Super Bowls, to three-peat. And it's the fact that it hasn't, okay, like, don't hear me wrong, it hasn't been easy for them, but it's like, and this is, I guess, greatness, like, I'll admit that, but it's been so consistent that it's not shocking, right? And yet, like, for me at least, just for me, maybe not for Chiefs fans or Chiefs players, but for me, when I see like Chris Jones crying on the sideline and like, Josh Allen doesn't get the 4th down conversion, which I'm skipping ahead, but whatever. And, the Chiefs get the first down that they need to put the game away. And then it cuts to the crowd and, it's like these women like jumping up and down and like, oh my God. I'm just like, are you really shocked though? Are you really? Like, I get that it's your team, but nobody else is fucking shocked. Not a single fucking soul is shocked that on 4th and 1, Josh Allen gets the keeper and he gets the first down, but they don't give it to him. Not only do they not give it to him, they initially give it to him. Then they say, wait, no, actually, we don't think that it's a first down. Let's get the replay. But before we get the replay in, let's call it short. So that when we get the replay in, we can't call it a first down. What the fuck? That's bullshit. That's utter bullshit. And then there's the fucking theory, which I love, that on the 4th and 5, where Josh Allen gets a corner blitz, props to Spags, not props to the offensive line, where he miraculously does a fucking step back jumper and actually gets it to Dalton Kincaid. Like, he was genuinely open. I watched the replay and I'm like, he actually saw that. I thought he just threw it up. Like, fuck it, we ball. Game over, I guess. This sucks. But he actually saw that he was open. And he got it in his hands. And there's the theory that there was a flag that was thrown just in case. Because the commentating was like, there is a flag, and then like immediately without there's no camera shot of any flag on the floor, right? They never cut to like anything like that. They don't cut to the refs. It's just reactions. It's Chris Jones hugging Deion Dawkins and whoever else. It's Josh Allen and it's Dalton Kincaid. No shots of a referee, but there is the yellow flag logo on the bottom right, and then Tony Romo or Jim Nantz, whoever it was, is saying like, wait, it seems like there isn't a flag. Well, how do you know that? So the theory is, obviously, I'm sure people know, that they threw a flag just in case they got it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That, like, obviously that's far-fetched. It doesn't look right to me. And actually, I'm going to send you a tweet because now that I'm just on the fucking full-blown temper tantrum that I didn't really intend to have, I want to send you this tweet right now that I
Okay.
retweeted.
I do wanna add. So, like, you know how retired NFL players talk about how the game is soft nowadays. Like, I could just imagine Tom Brady watching the Chiefs is like, man, we used to have to work our ass off to cheat and get away with it. Meanwhile, they're just spoon feeding the Chiefs, dude. They're like,
Well, that
they're
and then like selling fucking penalties, and it's like, okay, I was listening to the Greenlight podcast and Chris Long, I love the guy, and he doesn't make a point that I necessarily hate. Like, I understood what he was saying. He was like, if you look at the numbers, the Chiefs and their opponents in these playoff games get the same amount of penalties. Like, on average, they get the same amount. So it's like, quit complaining and, creating this facade that the Chiefs get every call their way. I get
it's
it, but
not
I
how
think the
many,
problem
it's
is it's
when.
when. It's when, and it's how big of a penalty is it? It's not how many, it's how does this affect the game,
Yeah.
right? How I'd like to see the numbers on how many of them are on third down relative to their opponents. How many are in the fourth quarter? How many in the 2-minute drill? That's what I want to know, you know? But and there's also the idea of missed penalties, like the Super Bowl with the Niners last year. How many missed holding calls should have been called in that game on the Chiefs' offensive line? I can tell you it's probably north of 10. Just on Nick Bosa alone. But it's the Chiefs.
Especially 2019. Especially
Yeah.
2019. But like, one thing I do want to say is, with all that being considered, the Patriots, I do not have fond memories of them, just being dominant. I just remember, man, the games are so damn boring. They just, it's a slow offense and it's a slow burn. It's so boring. And meanwhile, the Chiefs, like, it was really fun to watch at first when it's like, hey, man, I kind of like these guys. And then like, Mahomes is so cool and all that. And then they started winning Super Bowls and they're just so insufferable of, like, just whether it's like, Juju Smith-Schuster doing TikToks and, like, Mahomes' wife, like, yelling into the camera, or like pouring
His brother.
champagne on fans, or his brother or his dad getting arrested with a DUI, or like, all right, half the football game we're just going to show Taylor Swift and the announcers are going to make Taylor Swift references the entire game, and all the media surrounding it is just about Taylor Swift. And there's this whole big conspiracy theory that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. They're going to three-peat, and then Travis Kelce is going to get down on one knee and propose to Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift, and Taylor Swift. No, I'm just playing. No. Well, I'm gonna be like posted on a clip somewhere where it's gonna be like it's gonna be like
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be 49er, or I guess the Chiefs broke NFL fans, and I'm gonna be like part of it. And Taylor Swift. No,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's just so much along with it.
They're making it less about football while destroying every other football team in their way.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is the Grim Reaper. And then I want to give credit. I want to give credit to the Kansas City Chiefs. I want to give credit to Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, that entire coaching staff. And, I'll give credit to Mahomes. He is one of the best players that I've ever seen play. But, like, especially the coaching and the players, they are probably the most prepared team for any situation that I have ever seen. And I think you can go back to last Super Bowl, against the 49ers. They talked about after the game how they had meetings. They had meetings on what to do if the game goes to overtime, and taught the players about the rules of overtime. Meanwhile, on the 49ers side, they didn't know the rules for overtime. They didn't know that both teams possessed the ball. And then so ultimately they made the wrong choice. Whether it's any rule in the book or any situation, it seems like the Chiefs are prepared for it. They blitz at the right time. It's like, they talk about how aggressive Spagnuolo is, but like I feel like he's aggressive because he does his homework and the player, he gets all the players to know what the offense is going to do in that particular situation. Like, so I do want to give credit for their, for them being prepared, but it's so damn annoying. Like, this is what I do to the rest of my fantasy league, on a daily basis, but this is like in actual NFL terms, right? Like they're just winning every single year and it's constant. And then other players are not able, there's no food for the rest of everybody.
Yeah. I like you said, as far as giving props, like as much as I can be annoyed with Pat Mahomes and the way that he acts at times, which I'll get to in a second. But there's a quote that I read. I'm assuming after the game because it related to Josh Allen, and Josh Allen being the potential MVP this season. I don't know who said this first, but it's true. Everyone, well, I don't know about everyone is better, but let's just say every MVP is better than Mahomes until it's time to be better than Mahomes. That pretty much sums it up. Everything that I've said as far as why it's annoying is like, well, the other aspects obviously, but them always winning. It's like you think that this hero, the Bengals, the Bills, the Ravens, they're going to come in with this MVP guy and they're going to be better and they're going to get it done. But once it's time, when it really matters, Mahomes is going to outplay them. Or at the very least, he's not going to make a mistake. And that you have to be perfect to beat the Chiefs at this, especially at this stage, where they're just playing this efficient football. It's no more Tyreek Hill and, going deep and big shots. It's just, oh, what's the defense giving us? All right, thank you. And just, it'll be 3rd and 7. They'll get it. Doesn't matter. It does not matter. They will be efficient. They will get it done because Mahomes is the best at taking what the defense gives him. Whereas his opponents in these big time games that they have not been in as many times as Mahomes have to be perfect. And at some point they get forced into 4th and 5 and they shit their fucking pants. Whereas somehow the Chiefs and their zebra friends, help them out, and make sure that they do get it done. But regardless, you watch the game and it's not like the refs are just handing it to the Chiefs. Like Mahomes is doing Mahomes things. He's great. But, it's that 4th and 5 or the 4th and 1. That's the one that pissed me off. It wasn't the final drive. It was the 4th and 1, 2 drives prior. That shit really pissed me off. And it was around that time when I started feeling that anger that I haven't felt in quite a long time.
Is that the one where Mahomes rushed? They got him outside the pocket and.
Well, okay.
No. You're talking about the Bills.
Yeah.
The Bills 4th.
Josh Allen. Okay. Yeah, Josh Allen. It's ridiculous. And then what I mean is, as far as like the way that Pat Mahomes acts, like this is just, I think a topic of the day today is going to be competitiveness. Like I mentioned about myself as a kid and feeling that anger when I lose, like all I cared about was winning. It wasn't about having fun. It's winning, right? I'm sure it's the same way for Pat Mahomes. Like, and he's won so many times. It's like, you can't bitch. You can't moan. Like for us, it's like, dude, you've won how many Super Bowls, how many AFC championships? Like, shut up. Anytime he complains. So when he complains in the regular season a year ago to Josh Allen, like this is the one that really pissed me off, dude. As far as how Mahomes acts. Yes. When they had the lateral play to Kadarius Toney from Travis Kelce, it wasn't exactly a game winner, but, it was a big play in that game. And it gets called back, finally, by the refs. Correctly, by the way. Clearly, Toney's dumb ass was offsides offensively. And what does Pat Mahomes? What does Pat Mahomes do after the game when he goes to shake Josh Allen's hand?
In his face, he goes, "Worst call ever."
Yeah.
Oh my god, I've never seen a worse call in my fucking life. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god, dude. Like, God.
In the
Could you
regular season,
imagine?
bear in mind.
Could you imagine the bulletin board material they would have if the other teams did the same shit to them,
Oh,
like in
imagine
their
if
face like
Josh
that?
Allen, after this game last night, was all in Pat Mahomes' face. Like, instead of just being like, "Yeah, good game, man," just a quick little handshake and get out of there, not really saying much. Obviously, Josh Allen's upset, but instead, if he was like, "Can't believe they called back that 4th and 1. Can you believe that?"
Yeah.
Like, instead of like, "Congrats, man, good game." I can't
Yeah.
believe that. And then oh, dude, Josh Allen would never hear the end of it.
Yep.
He would never hear the end of it. In part because it's a bigger stage, but regardless, like, I don't know, Pat Mahomes was throwing massive fits in that game because he finally got a big call against him in the regular season. Like, I want to see it so bad in 2 weeks. I don't care if the referees ruin the game if it means that the Eagles win. Ruin that fucking game. I said in the group chat,
God no.
Lorenzo.
God no.
I don't even care about the Super Bowl. We're probably going to talk about it, but yes, we are. But
Yeah,
Lorenzo,
that's going to be our next topic. We're just going to talk about it now. Then we'll get into meat and potatoes.
Cool. Then we'll get into some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Lorenzo, in our group chat, in our fantasy football league, is a Cowboys fan. And at the beginning of the game, if not the end of the Eagles game, Lorenzo said that he hates the Eagles more than us Raider fans, aka me, like Enrique, Hutch, more than us Raider fans hate the Chiefs. And I didn't respond in the moment, but I literally went like, "Oh my God," when I saw that text, because I was like, no. And Lorenzo has not experienced watching the Eagles go to the Super Bowl year in and year out, 7 straight years, and win them almost every year. He has watched them go to multiple Super Bowls, yes. He has watched the Eagles beat his team many times, yes. At times, the Cowboys have won the division. Have I gotten to witness that? Fuck no. Not for my team. All I've experienced is dog shit and watching the Chiefs just own my shit. And in the process, you have the Pat Mahomes throwing tantrums, Travis Kelce being obnoxious, Taylor Swift, Jackson Mahomes, Brittany Mahomes, and everything else in between. On top of that, no sign of stopping them. Whereas the Eagles, there have been signs.
You have to understand, Lorenzo is a Cowboys fan, and I get it. It's not so much. All right, he does hate the Eagles.
He's delusional. That's what.
No, okay, he is delusional. But check this out. No other team has done more favors for Cowboys fans than the Kansas City Chiefs, because the Cowboys hate the Eagles and they hate the 49ers.
Yeah, who cares? But his statement
the
was
Chiefs have robbed the Eagles and the Niners of Super Bowls, man, and they're about to rob the Eagles of another Super Bowl, I bet.
So then his statement should have been, Mike, you don't like the Eagles as much as I like the Chiefs.
No,
that should be his statement, because he's saying the opposite. No, he's saying, I hate the Eagles, Lorenzo, Cowboy fan. Yeah. I hate the Eagles more than you, Mike, Raider fan, hate the Chiefs. Not possible. No way. No fucking way. The opposite can be true. He likes the Chiefs more than I like the Eagles. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There we go.
Okay. Now we get it.
Yep. Okay. I think that is a more fair assessment. Because I do remember a couple weeks ago, he was like, honestly, if it's Chiefs Eagles, I'm going Chiefs, because, or I want to say, if the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, he's like, I honestly have no problem with the Chiefs. They've been doing the Lord's work. They beat the Niners twice in the Super Bowl, and they beat the Eagles. So no matter what, the Chiefs would have been playing a division rival of his. So he probably would have been rooting for the Chiefs, over Commanders or Eagles. However, that one would have shook out.
The NFC Championship to him was like me watching the essentially Chiefs Chargers in the AFC Championship, I would have just been like, this is terrible. The only way this could be worse is if it were the Broncos, which to him would be the New York Giants, you know. But and in that same breath, like, I have no problem with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. It's just that I would have much rather have seen the Lions. And I'm sure Lorenzo would have much rather have seen the Bills or the Ravens, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah.
But the past 10 years, he cannot dislike the Eagles more than I dislike the Chiefs. There's no way that he's sitting there watching the Eagles game with like, okay, have you ever felt like genuine rage where you feel it go down your stomach and it just sits in here and it's just like, I have to physically do something right now. Like, I want to punch a wall. I could do anything right now. I have to do something.
Well, let me just tell you that a couple weeks ago, I fucking started the Colts defense in the fantasy championship. So yes.
Yeah. And it's like that childhood rage comes back of like, I need to just throw a fit. I wish I were in a rage room or whatever they're called, where I could just like bash things with a baseball bat. Like, that feeling comes out of me.
An Eagles Super Bowl parade?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Eagles fans are ridiculous, but there's no way that Lorenzo is feeling that as much as I feel that when I watch the Chiefs win, when I want the exact opposite so badly, because all I've gotten is the opposite of what I want.
Honestly, there's no way we would ever be able to tell who hates the other team more. Maybe Lorenzo does hate them more all right, but this is like a pissing contest. You know what I mean? But if we're talking about like, all right, Lorenzo appreciates what the Chiefs have done more than you appreciate what the Eagles have done, then I think that's more, you would find more common ground there. But like, I have to say, when comparing the teams, the Chiefs are the more annoying team. You know what I mean? The Eagles, on the other hand, their fan base is so insufferable. Their fans are horrible. Yeah. They're horrible. They're passionate, but they go too far.
Yeah. Yeah, like, there is a similarity there of like, Eagles fans don't deserve this, and for me, I feel like Chiefs fans don't deserve this in large part because of people like Brittany Mahomes, Jackson Mahomes, Taylor Swift just taking the game away from the game, stuff like that. But also, one last reason why the Chiefs, like, I have to hate them more. Maybe this is just me personally. I don't know if many fans are like this. But like, part of that competitiveness, again, that same word, is like, I want to win the most, right? There's never enough winning. There is never enough winning. And the Raiders have 3 Super Bowl championships in their history. The Dallas Cowboys have 5, right?
Yeah.
The Eagles have 1 Super Bowl win in their history. Like, the Eagles going to the Super Bowl doesn't put a dent in the Dallas Cowboys legacy, right? The Chiefs passed up the Raiders in this Patrick Mahomes span.
Era. Yeah.
They used to only have like 1, maybe 2, but I think only 1, because they're on 3 total, possibly going on 4, right? With Mahomes. And then there was another one. They're at 4 right now. So 3 with Mahomes, 1, back in like the 60s or some shit. They have 4. They have more than the Raiders. Like, I have witnessed, when I became a Raider fan, the Raiders had the most Super Bowls in the division. And then Peyton Manning came along and tied the Broncos record, 3-3, Raiders-Broncos. And then, boom, the Chiefs come and just move aside, little brother, to both of us. It's now the Chiefs own the division. Like, the Cowboys will own that division for a long time. That's just another aspect for me.
Yeah. I guess that's true. I'm not even saying, like, if I had to choose who I would want to win, I would probably, let's go ahead and talk about the Super Bowl. Let's move it along. let's talk about the Super Bowl. If I had to talk about who I actually want to win the game, I would say neither. I really don't want either team to win. If like, I guess in the wise words of Christian McCaffrey, he's like, I hope both teams lose. That was literally 2 years ago when referencing both teams. I think when the Niners got eliminated in the NFC Championship to the Eagles when Brock Purdy got hurt. I want to say he was referencing Chiefs versus Eagles in the Super Bowl. That being said, this is such an unfavorable Super Bowl matchup, and anybody telling you that this is what everybody wanted to see and it's going to be so great and everything. No, this Super Bowl is going to suck ass. My prediction is that the Chiefs are. I think the Chiefs they have the better defense. They've got the better quarterback. They've got the better head coach. I think that they're going to win this game by at least 2 touchdowns. That's honestly how I feel. And it's because if the Chiefs have actually been playing very well. They put up 30 on the Bills defense, right? Eagles defense is better than the Bills defense. But the thing is now they have Hollywood Brown back. They've got DeAndre Hopkins on their team. They are better than they were a year ago. And their defense is playing at I think, such a high level. It's so hard to run the football against them. And if they're able to shut down Saquon Barkley, which I think that's probably going to be Spagnuolo's plan, I don't know, man. I feel like they're going to turn the Eagles one-dimensional in this game, and they're just going to win their 4th Super Bowl. And then Taylor Swift is going to ride on a unicorn and take Travis Kelce to planet Mars.
At the bare minimum, they're going to go on a lot of plane flights, private jet flights for the rest of their life together.
Yeah. They got to go on a private jet from one end of the mansion to the other.
Yeah. Or to the other mansion.
True.
I feel a lot more optimistic than you for the Eagles. And in the same breath, I also okay. For starters, you said this isn't the Super Bowl that anybody wanted. Yes. I think the best Super Bowl would have been Bills versus Lions. I think that would have been amazing. And I could have absolutely been, talked into Lions versus Ravens.
Ravens, yeah.
Either of the MVP candidates versus the obvious best team, the Lions. And no matter what, it would have been fun as fuck to watch. Preferably Bills, Lions, 2 teams that have never won the Super Bowl. That would have been amazing. It'd have been like, wow, good for their fans. And we had a lot of fun in the meantime watching the game, right?
Yeah.
But now it's going to be this insufferable. I'm going to have that sinking feeling in the 4th quarter of pure rage if the Chiefs are up or close in this game. And I just can't help but feel that this game, I mean, really the entire playoffs, but this game is going to get a lot of people to love Saquon Barkley. I think, your prediction is the Chiefs going to win.
Yeah.
Hands down. Obviously I'm not hands down on this prediction, but I am predicting the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl. And it's because their offensive line is so fucking great that the Chiefs can try to stop the run. But as long as the Eagles offensive line is healthy, which right now their center seemingly isn't, but they have 2 weeks. And I forget the other guys. It was Dickerson that was injured with his knee, and then I don't know if it's Juergens or somebody else, but the other guy came back. I think he's the actual starter. Came back in the middle of this game. He has a back injury of some kind. I just think the Eagles are going to do what they want to do, and when they don't get to do what they want to do, I think Jalen Hurts is still going to be locked in. And they have A.J. Brown, they have Devontae Smith, they have Dallas Goedert, they have options. They have the better team on paper in this game. The difference is the quarterback position. And I was going to agree with you that the Chiefs have the better defense. And I was like, I don't know. I think on paper, the Eagles have the better defense, but Spags is the better coach, so the Chiefs are better coached. But then again, the Eagles have Vic Fangio.
They
Like,
do. Yeah, he's
there's
a
a
great
reason why
coordinator.
he's a fucking phenomenal coordinator. And there's a reason why the Eagles, at least late season, have the best defense in football. Um, because they're playing like it, you know? And the one thing that gives me pause with their defense is that they have a lot of youth, right? But that doesn't have to be a terrible thing. It's just they need to be locked in. And Vic Fangio has a big what do you call it? Has a big yada yada on his plate,
Yeah.
Um, but I think offensively, I think the Eagles can get it done. It's just they can't turn over the ball. Like I said, the entire course of this 2024-2025 playoffs has been the teams that lose the turnover battle lose the game.
Okay.
And I think the Bills were in that game against the Chiefs because there was a fumble by Pat Mahomes in like the second quarter. And the Bills were able to get back into that game. But then you had missed fourth down conversions, right? And that could be where the Eagles falter. If it's not 4th and 1, and it's not a tush push, maybe that's where the Chiefs get them. Is if it's 4th and 3 and Sirianni is, being whatever the term is for going for it, right? He's being pushy, right? He's going for it. That could be where the Eagles falter and the Chiefs get them beat, right? But I don't think there's a world where the Chiefs are winning this game by 2 touchdowns unless it's late in the fourth quarter. Because that's been the Chiefs all season is close one-score games, and they game scripted at the end, and they win it because they're well coached and they have Pat Mahomes leading the charge. But also, well, I was gonna say their run game isn't good, but that's not true. Kareem Hunt actually is. It pisses me off how good he's playing right now because he was out of the league, and everybody just sat back and thought, "Well, why should we sign him when we could just let the fucking Chiefs sign him back right when they fucking need him?" It's so annoying. It's like, whatever. Why couldn't the Browns just keep him? I don't know. But regardless, the Eagles' run game is way better, and it's going to be close. I think it's going to be really close, but I have optimism that the Eagles can get it done.
My reasoning for picking.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
This is me being the annoying Chiefs hater. I hope it's biblical. I hope that the Eagles just put it on them. I hope that it's the most disgusting act of spanking that we ever witness in a Super Bowl. It won't be because it's the Chiefs, but I hope that the Eagles, like I said, I hope the refs ruin this fucking game in favor of the Eagles. If they go the opposite direction and it's in favor of the Chiefs, obviously nobody's happy. I don't care how good this game is. Honestly, I just want good commercials at this point, and I want the Eagles to win. That's all I care about. Go ahead.
My complaint about every single Chiefs game has been that the refs have ruined the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it would be poetic if the refs did ruin it. But what I want to see, I want to see the refs allow the players to play, and I want to see a good game. I already don't like who's in it, okay? I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. I fucking love football. This is going to be the last football that we get until the summer. Later in the summer. I'm going to watch the Super Bowl. The NFL knows that everybody says that they're not going to watch it, but they're still going to watch it. They have us in a stranglehold. I'm trying to look at it this way, right? I hate that the Chiefs are winning every single year, but you know what? If they win, then guess what? The football fan in me, hey, I witnessed the first three-peat in NFL history. That happened in my lifetime. If they don't, then I get to see the Chiefs get the biggest plate of humble pie that they could ever get, because I guarantee you, if they do not win this Super Bowl, I don't think that they are going to three-peat ever. Right. I don't know when's the next time we'll ever see another team get that opportunity. It's either going to happen now or it's not going to happen. I'm not saying this is the last Super Bowl they'll ever win, but I'm just saying it's 3 in a row is not going to happen if it doesn't happen now for them. So I'm looking at it that way. So I can at least appreciate greatness, or I can witness, like, the Patriots going 17, or 16-0 and losing the Super Bowl. Like,
Right.
That was a crazy game. I'm sure people were tired of the Patriots even at that point, right? Like, oh, the Patriots again in the Super Bowl. They're 16-0. The NFL's got it all set up for them to go, the perfect season, be the best team ever. And then they lose the Super Bowl, and then that had the helmet catch, right? And that's one of the most iconic moments in Super Bowl history. If we get one of those, hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. You know what I mean? Just give me a good game that isn't an unbearable watch for 3.5 hours, right?
Yeah.
Give me a solid couple hours of football, and then I'll turn it off as soon as it's over. And yeah.
I sent you a tweet on the Silver and Gold Twitter. Now's the best time, I think, to put it up, since we didn't put it up earlier when I meant to.
Is it the tennis one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just on the topic of referees right now, like, this was more in relation to the 4th and 1 that Josh Allen got but then didn't get. Consider that a tennis ball going at probably north of 80 miles per hour, if I had to guess, maybe I'm wrong, but still, a hand-sized tennis ball can be tracked so accurately in professional tennis that they get instant replays that correctly tell you whether the ball's inbounds, out of bounds. But you're telling me that the NFL can't do the same thing? Like, we can't have a tracker in the football and find out if it passed the marker or not? We can't do that? Because, that 4th and 1, it's the difference of the game. It's literally, they say it's the game of inches. So shouldn't we do everything we can to make sure that the inches are counted correctly? Like, I get that you don't want the game to become a computer, like, overall in totality.
Yeah.
But, like, if we can just correctly place the football and not leave it up to the eyes of a fucking referee. Like, I remember years ago, speaking of the Cowboys, there was a funny clip of, I want to say it was Tony Romo, where an official placed the football and it was short of the first down. And when he turned around, Tony Romo slyly, like, to be funny, used his foot and pushed the football up like a good yard. And it was caught on camera. I don't know if it actually worked out for him or not, but it's like, you can do that. It's little things like that that's just like, it shouldn't. That's just annoying.
Here's what I'll say. First off, tennis balls are different than football. So if there are actually chips that do track this in a tennis ball, how is that going to work with an inflated football that needs to be at like a certain PSI? I don't know. Is it going to be too much pressure for the chip inside the ball? I'm not a scientist or an expert in this field. Those are just questions that arise with me. Second, a tennis ball, it's pretty clear. All right, it hits the ground. That's when you track where specifically it was located, right? In football, the referee blows the whistle dead. You have to, I guess, stop it there, and where does forward progress, I guess, tie in? Like, it would have to be done right, or else there's going to be a bad, it's good. If it's not done right, it's going to be horrible, right? It'll be a bunch of horrible spots. Like, hey, his forward progress had him there. Well, the chip says here. It's like, well, he clearly had it here. Which side of the football would they put the chip on? Also, if there's a tracking chip,
I would imagine both.
If the end of the football signifies, the location, like, it's going to be hard to determine which side of the football to actually use to estimate it. And then plus, if the chip is inside the ball, if the chip is inside the ball, how is it going to account for that extra inch of leather, right? The pigskin. You know, so that I guess that's my exact issues. Yeah, it would probably be more accurate than like by eye if they're able to like design it right. But those are just like my initial like, all right, before we just like completely jump on board with this, like, do they have all the issues worked out before they go into it? Because the last thing I want is them to like, you know, come up with this brand new gimmick and then it's like, you know, kind of slows down the game, ruins the game because it's not working right. You know, similar to like when the NFL started talking about like, well, no, actually that's more of like Madden. Like Madden was like, oh, next gen stats in the game, blah blah blah, and they never did shit with it because they didn't know how to do it. You know, but football is different than Madden. But you get what I mean. It's like they're gonna sell it and then it's not gonna work and then they're just gonna abandon it.
Yeah. No matter what, they need to make sure that the kinks are, you know, not
Properly
a problem.
kinked.
Yeah, it's properly figured out before they install any sort of new change to a rule or, you know, a way that they process, you know, the game, you know,
Yeah.
and where the football is placed. It's just if the technology's there, we already know the money's there for the NFL. So I don't know. It's just I have a serious issue with when the eyeball tells you clearly Josh Allen got it, and then the referees change their mind, yada yada yada. I have a problem with that. Like I'd rather just have a robot tell me, yeah, he made it or he didn't. I'd rather have that. Just like the strike zone in baseball. It's like when your team gets, you know, it's a 3-2 count and it's the fucking final at bat of the World Series. It's either he hits the ball or bases loaded. It's either the runner at third gets in and it's a tie game, or he strikes out, game over. You just lost the fucking World Series, heartbroken. And on 3-2 count, the ball is 5 inches, you know, outside. Strike! Lose my mind, right?
Yep.
Lose my fucking mind because when the camera tells me clearly and they do a replay, it's like, well, it was way out of the strike zone. I can't believe he called it a strike. It's like, oh my God, it's a part of the game, but that's an imperfect part of the game that is very upsetting when it shits on you and it goes in favor of the other team.
I mean, baseball has, you know, is the perfect sport for them to do that with. It's just football. I mean, it's not a perfect, you know, it's not a perfect circle. It's, you know, it's a football shaped football, right? I don't know if that makes sense to anybody who doesn't know what a football looks like, but
it would be difficult. You know, but again, with the money and the technology nowadays, it can be done. That's a fact, in my opinion. And that clashes because fact, opinion. But in my opinion, I think that has to be a fact.
I just think that it would help too if there were more cameras like above to get an, you know, if they would have had like a shot, an aerial shot above to show, all right, Josh Allen's got the football right here. And then you can see like a straight line across where that is.
Yep.
That's what they should do.
1000%. More cameras. That won't even cost them that much money. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. I agree.
And better cameras.
Yeah. Give me some 8K shit.
Yeah. Like some
didn't the fucking UFL have that or some shit? Like the UFL had some like experimental camera angles and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, we need to start getting a little bit better at this because that just pisses me off. But to summarize my opinion on this Super Bowl, do I really want the referees to ruin this game? No. I want to have a good time watching the game. At the end of the day, what I want to see Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs fans, whoever it is, I want to see them throwing a tantrum. I want to see them pissed off, sad. I want to see some tears. because they lost. That's all I care about.
Well, guess what?
And
You're
frankly,
getting the Disney movie ending where the tears are going to be Taylor Swift's when Travis Kelce drops to a knee and says,
yeah.
"I just three-peated. I would like to give you
by then
my
the
fifth
game will
ring."
be off. By then the game will be off. The TV will be off, and the beer will be in my hand. And so forth. Perhaps even harder alcohol, but
Some Jameson.
yeah. Well, we don't. Yeah. Past experiences there. We're not going there. But perhaps tequila. Who knows? But I will also say I do really like the revenge narrative for the Eagles, being that they played them in the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. Same quarterback, same coach, a few new faces here and there, but for the Chiefs, not that many, right? I like the revenge narrative, and I hope that's the Disney ending that we get, is that the Eagles get the revenge that they seek.
Mm-hmm. I don't see it happening, mainly because I think the Eagles offense flows right through Saquon Barkley. And yes, they do have a kick-ass offensive line. I say the unit that they have that's better than the Chiefs is probably absolutely that offensive line. I'd say everything else, though, you could probably argue that the Kansas City Chiefs just, I mean, maybe defensive line too. They might have them there, but just it seems like you just cannot run the ball against the Chiefs. They do such a good job stopping the run. I really like their defensive front with Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, and I think that they do. It's like running into a brick wall, at least for most teams. And if there's one team that's going to be able to neutralize Saquon Barkley, it's going to be the Chiefs in this game. But I definitely want to talk about more positive things in this show. So I'm going to get to the comments after we lock in our picks. You are going to go with the Eagles?
Yeah.
I am going to pick the Chiefs, but like I said, I want nobody to win because nobody deserves to win. I mean, if I'm not even going to put that out into the universe, but if for whatever reason the Chiefs are unable to play and they called the 49ers up to do, a rematch against the Chiefs, actually at this point, I don't even want to see that. I don't want to see them lose another Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to bet against the Chiefs. I'm not crazy. Let's see what everybody in the comments is saying. Pia says, shaking my head, absolutely terrible, the matchup. 49er Media says, I want both teams to lose. Yeah, I think most of us do. I feel the same way watching the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The refs are so annoying that Allen run was a first down. So 49er Media agreeing, they should have given Josh Allen the first down. But it's the fact that they didn't give him the first down. If they would have just ruled it a first down, there's not enough to overturn it.
Exactly. And that's what's annoying is like the first line judge came in and said, yeah, he got it pretty much. Like from where he spotted it, it was a first down.
Yeah. Now I understand how people felt when the Warriors were a dynasty. I do not understand. I am a Golden State Warriors fan. Call me a hypocrite, but, I feel like in football, it's so rare for there to be a dynasty like this. And then in the NBA, all right, I say that, but we clearly think back to all right, the Cowboys and the 49ers in the 80s and 90s. And then the Patriots shortly after, and then the Chiefs now. I feel like the NBA has just been dynasties all the time.
Yeah.
It's literally you have the Celtics, the Lakers, and then honestly, the Spurs and the Warriors. That's been like the NBA dynasties, really.
Yeah.
And the Miami Heat. Heat. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, and I say the Celtics and the Lakers, they've had multiple dynasties, those teams.
Yeah. They've been keeping them going strong for a long time.
Oh, and the Bulls. The Bulls. How did I forget the Bulls?
And dating back further,
oh my God.
Before the 2000s, the Bulls.
Jesus. That's like the best dynasty ever, and I almost forgot.
Right. That's the three-peat.
Yeah.
So that's what Mahomes is trying to, go for, really, is the Michael Jordan aspect.
I find it amazing that Max Kellerman a couple years ago said that Patrick Mahomes has an opportunity to be the Michael Jordan of football, and he's literally doing it. Like nobody's gonna. Man, if Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson both don't get a ring, I feel like that's
honestly, if I'm looking for a guy to throw a pass right now, give me Andre Iguodala.
Oh man.
If you know, you know.
I want Iguodala. 49er Media says someone needs to pay the shit out of Spags and make him a head coach. Why would he want to leave the Chiefs if they're still winning Super Bowls? I would just, I mean, they're probably paying him good. He's probably one of the highest paid defensive coordinators.
Probably, but apparently head coach money is like
3 times as much, like 4 times as much. Still,
like the whole Liam Cohen thing, which is different because Liam Cohen's come from the Bucks, and it's like,
we're gonna
that's
talk
a whole
about
other.
him.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. That what the Jags did was ridiculous. We'll get there. Just fuck. But I think the reason why he did that is because, one, when you're not a proven head coach, it's probably a lot harder to get head coaching jobs. And for all we know, Liam Cohen is just on a Linsanity run, and it's like, hey man, get your money, as a coordinator, and then now he has the head coaching opportunity. He went from getting the extension of $4.5 million per year to now like probably a lot more than that with the Jags.
Hey, hold up! I gotta put these comments. They're cracking me up. PS says Josh is a negative Nancy. I always am. But Emerald Knight Photos says, if the Chiefs win again, I'm getting blackout drunk.
I might be right there with you, dude. I'm off on Mondays, so I don't give a fuck.
I cannot wait till they make it 18-game regular seasons and the Super Bowl is right before President's Day.
Yeah, that would be preferred.
Yeah. All right. Let me go back to where I was. Let's see. I was on the Dynasty comment. Oh, no, I was on the Spagnuolo one. It sucks also that the refs are favoring them. Yeah, the Chiefs, absolutely. It's not about how much, it's about when. Pia asks, do you believe that the Super Bowl logo predicts who goes? It has been incredibly accurate, except for last season. It should have been Niners Ravens, which it almost was until, I mean, who knows? Maybe it was rigged in the Ravens' favor, but they just like messed it up,
Yeah, Zay Jones popped out the fumble at the end.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
But, I forgot. There was like another thing that they like tied the purple to the Chiefs, but maybe Taylor Swift or something like that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the early prediction was Chiefs Eagles because of the Super Bowl logo. So I think I feel like it's kind of cool that they've matched, but it also makes me wonder if it's set up. 49er Media says, laughs at it. And Frank, tuning back in, says, apparently I am not the only one who's tired of Taylor's queefs. I can guarantee you, Travis Kelce is not. 49er Media says, need Kelce to retire.
I agree. And I agree on Spags. Like, if the Saints could just do us all the favor, the last team that's got an opening, and hire the shit out of Spags, like, just throw the Brinks trunk at him. And just get him away from the Chiefs, man. Jeez. But I agree with you that he has no reason to leave them. It's like, you're on an insane run right now. Why leave? Like, if anything, ask for an extension. They'll give it to him.
Anyone but the damn Chiefs would have been better. Yeah, I would have taken the Ravens or the Bills.
I would have taken the fucking Jets.
They have replay assist, but doesn't fix all the issues. Yeah. I agree. Cowboys are hiring Nick Sorensen to become their special teams coach. LMAO. Well, they're going to ask him, so why do you think that you got this job? And he's going to be like, ask Jerry.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll have to ask Jerry. I don't know. No. Hey, we will talk about who the Niners did hire. I did not expect that we were going to talk for about an hour and a half about the Super Bowl. Frank says, these gadgets and gimmicks might just be another way for the league and the networks to control the game, including the inevitable outcome. I tend to agree too.
Yeah, that's why I usually do side with your point, Josh, of just let the players play. I agree with you. Deep down, I do. I always do. It's just this time, I'm just praying on the Chiefs' downfall. I don't care how it is. I don't care how it happens. I just want to see them sad at the end. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the Eagles winning. It's about the Chiefs losing. That's all it is.
Let's talk about. All right. So you're picking the Eagles.
Yes.
I'm picking.
I can't pick the Chiefs.
I want both to lose.
Yeah, I'm sure picking the Chiefs is the smart thing, just like picking the Chiefs against the Bills was the smart thing. But at this stage, I can't pick them.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Eagles. I really do. I like their roster. I like their makeup. Jalen Hurts just has to stay efficient. He has to play like he did in the NFC Championship game.
Oh, God. Can we talk about this real quick? All right. Okay, so 49er fans across the board can mostly agree that Nick Sirianni is a clown of a head coach. A lot of fans do feel like Nick Sirianni is a clown, right? There is such a massive difference between coaching in the AFC and coaching in the NFC. Man, if Josh Allen were playing in the NFC, he would be going to the Super Bowl every single year and getting his ass kicked by the Chiefs there. Okay?
Yeah.
That's literally all right. If you are a 49er fan at home, I want you to ask yourself, if Nick Sirianni is able to make it to the Super Bowl and you feel like he is a fraud, either do you really feel like he's a fraud, or do you feel like, it's easier in the NFC to make it to the Super Bowl? Does that feeling make you feel more impressed or less impressed of Kyle Shanahan making it to the Super Bowl and making it to, NFC championships very often? Like, I don't know. It's funny. I've actually been feeling more positive about the Niners going into this offseason, but I just had to take a second to just distinguish the difference between coaching in the AFC and the NFC, because, it's so much harder for AFC teams. They have to go through the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Ravens, and the Bengals typically. Over here, it's a lot easier. And to Nick Sirianni's credit, his team is really good. I just don't think that he's that great of a head coach. I think he's more of he embodies the city, but and I liked Philadelphia. I had a great experience when I went to Philadelphia and traveled there, but I was not wearing any. I didn't go to a game.
Yeah.
I would probably not have a good experience wearing Niner stuff to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I guess to sum up my point, saying that Shanahan has had all this success, so he's beyond reproach. I guess have that same mindset when you're considering other teams in the NFC, like the Eagles, who are doing very similar things, going to NFC championships and Super Bowls, of hey, maybe it isn't such a hard feat as it was in the past of Harbaugh did it against some really good Saints team, a good Saints team. He beat an Atlanta Falcons team in Atlanta in order to go to the Super Bowl. I feel like, I don't know. I guess I don't know. You get what I'm trying to get at, right, Mike? Or am I botching this right now?
Honestly, I don't think I paid enough attention. to know what you're saying. Like, okay, are you trying to say are you trying to shit on Shanahan or prop up Shanahan right now?
Right
Or
now,
which coach are you trying to shit on?
okay. I'm just trying to say, like, the coaches, I mean the fans that think that Shanahan cannot be moved because of his success in the playoffs
Mm.
are not considering how easy the playoff route is in the NFC. You know, would he still have that same success if he were coaching in the other conference? Like, I get that he's not, but
Right.
does that make him? Does that make you feel better about Shanahan? Probably not. If
So are you
Nick
saying
Sirianni, who is widely regarded as a clown, is able to do the same thing, does that make Shanahan untouchable? You know what I mean? It doesn't
yeah.
make him a bad coach. I mean, you only coach who you play against, but
So are you trying to say essentially not that the grass is greener on the other side, but maybe just saying that it when looking at the NFC landscape and other coaches that can make it really high up in the NFC compared to the AFC, maybe Shanahan isn't the greenest of grass. Is that what you're saying?
yes. It's not
Okay.
the greenest of grass because he's in the NFC.
Right.
And if you're the best team in the NFC, that's so much easier to be the best team in the NFC than it is to be the best team in the AFC. So, like, trying to comparatively, you know, I guess stack up his success against, like for example, you want to compare Brock Purdy and his playoff success, not you, but fans, you want to compare him and his playoff success to like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Like, the AFC is stacked.
Yeah.
That's so much harder to make it to the Super Bowl and to go to like the conference, the title games.
If Philip Rivers were in the NFC right now, he'd be a Hall of Famer. That's basically what you're kind of saying, which I'm like I kind of agree. Of like, no offense to Brock Purdy, but like if he were in the AFC, wouldn't happen.
No.
Not him. You know.
Or if Justin Herbert were in the NFC, I feel like he would have at least won a playoff game by now.
Oh, for sure, that's a fact. Yeah, and I think in the reverse aspect, well, not reverse aspect, but reverse to Brock Purdy, like you said, Justin Herbert, right? If you, I mean, you already said it, but if you replace them, if you put Justin Herbert on the Niners, they might win a Super Bowl. You know,
Yeah.
um, the same can be said about coaches. I think that's the best way to maybe summarize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why I went off on Shanahan right now. Like, he literally did nothing but good things this weekend. But
Well,
I guess the Eagle. What prompted me to bring it up is the Eagles making it to the Super Bowl again, and then it's like, well, we don't treat Nick Sirianni like this genius, and he's going to the Super Bowl. Why does Shanahan get labeled as a genius if he just comes up short in the end? And that's what I think is just going to happen to Nick Sirianni as well.
right.
Why is one a clown and why is the other a genius?
I think it's a mixture of things. I think Shanahan has the name, right? He has his dad's name to him. So it's like, he's NFL royalty in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas Sirianni is like from in every single possible way, from the team that he coaches to the smug look on his face to the way that he acts and even the way that he coaches and like calls plays. But specifically, it's the smug look on his face and the way that he acts. He just exudes douchebag,
Yeah.
Like, he has probably the most punchable face of all head coaches in the NFL.
Nick
But he's successful.
Sirianni, I bet you in elementary school or like middle school or whatever, when he was in school, I guarantee you he was like that kid who's like, dicking around in class, and then the teacher calls him out and he's like, I wasn't even talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guarantee you that was him.
Right. He seems like one of those kind of people.
Yeah. But I
And
don't know. I guess I'll
yeah.
find a better way to ask the question. And when we get Grant back on the, back on the pod before the season asks, I want to ask him. I feel like that would be a good, I would love to get his take on it.
Yeah. Got to write it
But
down.
but let's get to something good, okay? Because there has been a lot of more exciting stuff than the Super Bowl, I'd have to say. There has been the 49ers, getting Robert Saleh back and, hiring a new special teams coordinator, which we will get into. But first, I want to talk about Pete Carroll being hired by the Raiders. We did a video talking about, the hire a little bit, but today he and John Spytek had a press conference, and we want to talk about how good of a press conference it was. Mike, I will let you have the floor. You're the Raider fan here, and you're already smiling, dude. How did you like it? And what are your immediate thoughts?
Now we can take a nice breath away from the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and the playoffs and the Bills game and actually focus on something very nice and refreshing. Finally, this team is being led by adults, and at the very least, being led by people who know what they're doing. And it's clear and obvious day one, even before, when they hired these guys a couple of days ago. It's just clear and obvious. The press conference, obviously, it's the usual thing where it starts with Mark Davis. He introduces them. They come in. It was just like Ziegler and Josh McDaniels a couple years ago, and then Antonio Pierce and Telesco, and now this. And okay, first off, like after that, they get a little photo op. They sit down, and then Spytek goes first. He brings out a piece of paper, and he opens with his own opening statement. And the dude went on for what might have been 10 minutes. It kind of felt like it. Yeah, but like even though he wasn't even really talking football, he just came off so professional and confident that I was already like, I love this guy.
Yep.
Like this dude is a stud. And then of course it got turned over to Pete Carroll. No notes, nothing. Just, basically just talking. And everything he was saying, man. I mean, both of them. I was just so impressed. But I'll get into it. I did send a couple of tweets on the Silver and Gold. Silver and Gold Twitter account. If you could pull those up now, there are a couple of videos. Let me make sure.
Real quick, I do want to say before we move on, like when Spytek was speaking, I was very impressed with him, and then like he started like, he was very, I guess, humble, and which I really liked, and at the same time he named off so many like names and teams that he's been with. It was almost like I know he didn't mean it in a bragging way, but it was like a very, very humble, like, yeah, I've had this experience with this team. This helped me grow in this way. I worked with John Elway,
Yeah.
I want to thank, this person and this person. And I even think like his old high school coach was there. And so like, I think that when you leave a good impression on people and like, you're genuinely like a good person, I think good things happen to you. And it makes me happy that a guy like that is getting, an opportunity. And it also is good because he has a lot of experience with a lot of personnel. So he already has the connections of like, hey man, I know the Raiders aren't going to trade much with the Broncos, but I mean, he has John Elway's number.
Mm-hmm.
He's got, connections to him. He's got connections to the Buccaneers if they want to make trades. He's got, I mean, now paired with Pete Carroll, they've got connections to the Seahawks. You know, I feel like genuinely good on the general manager front. And then Pete Carroll, man, when Pete Carroll started speaking, I was like, you know what? Yeah, the Raiders didn't just make the right hire for who was available. I think they probably made the best hire, period, out of everybody. I immediately was like, you know what? Fuck Ben Johnson. Like, forget Ben Johnson. I think this is the guy.
Yeah.
And what's good about Pete Carroll being hired is that the Raiders have had to fire coaches over and over for incompetence, and I guess John Gruden didn't necessarily get fired for incompetence, and really Jack Del Rio was kind of let go because they just preferred Gruden over him. But
Right.
like, McDaniels got fired for being incompetent. Antonio Pierce got fired for being inexperienced and they unable to fix the run game or really progress from the season before. That is not going to be a problem with Pete Carroll. He is so knowledgeable. The Raiders are not going to have to fire another head coach due to just low understanding of the game. He might even understand the game at higher levels than probably 99% of the league. I was thoroughly impressed, but let me start pulling up the tweets that you sent. Do I start at the top?
No, because I resent the ones that I want you to send or show more at the bottom. First, okay, to your point on the coaches, before you pull anything up.
Yeah.
To your point, I feel the exact same way about the GM. And bear in mind, this guy has never been a GM for a team, whereas like a guy like Tom Telesco was. But comparing Spytek to Ziegler and Tom Telesco, just from this press conference, and this doesn't mean anything as far as how he's going to be in his career as a GM for the Raiders, but in comparing them as people, Spytek is way more confident. He seems way more confident, and he seems a bit more professional too. Like I remember Ziegler kind of tripping over his words at times, and Telesco just doesn't seem very outgoing. It's something like that, in my opinion. And then just to bring it all the way around, the other guy to mention would be Mike Mayock, who never had any fucking experience in a front office. And in hindsight, it's just like, why the fuck did they do that? Like, yeah, he's a draft guru, but like, dude, you're running the operations. What are we thinking? Right?
Yeah.
Spytek has been around this for 20 years. Right? He's gone up the ladder for 20 years, and especially the past 6 to 10 years, he's really been up there, right? He knows what it takes, and he's a well-respected talent evaluator.
FBA G code says just Spytek talking. He brought about a confidence we haven't had, and that GM and Pete Carroll, had the same vibe.
Yep. And I know, Mark Davis said that Tom Brady really was swinging the bat for Spytek in this process, and then Pete Carroll, I think, just became the clear candidate to them over the course of the head coaching process. Before we get into some videos from the Raiders press conference, I want to do 2 videos from 2 other teams, from the ones that I sent you on Twitter. First, let's do the Cowboys one.
Okay. And then before we get into videos of the Raiders press conference, I want to talk about the stuff that really stood out. Unless you had you wanted to provide a visual aid, but there were clear things that stood out to me in this press conference that Pete Carroll mentioned that I was heavily impressed with, and then we can go from there.
I took some pretty good, in my opinion, notes. I was going to do the videos first because they're more funny, and then we'll get into the actual impressions. So let's do the Cowboys one. PFT
Cowboys one.
Commenter.
Okay. Let's see here.
So first we're going to compare and contrast the feeling, the vibe, right?
Okay.
There's a very low percentage of this that is smiles and glory holes. Very low percent. There's a very low.
Dude, that paired with the whole Jamie Foxx live stream thing, it's like
God.
where is Jerry's head at nowadays, man?
And then maybe now is the time to bring up the Jaguars and really go on that. But let's do the Liam Cohen one right there. This is so cringy.
Duval.
Huh.
Duval.
Like, this is going on at other press conferences the same day, same hour as Pete Carroll and Spytek. And it's just like, to me, polar opposites. Like, apparently the Schottenheimer press conference didn't go bad, but I know the overall thought process on that hire is like, really? Like, the Cowboys just went their own complete direction in the hiring process, and they went in-house after firing the head coach and like, oh, our team didn't do that good. Let's look in-house.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, your ex-coordinators were in the NFC Championship for your opposing division, like in your division. Dan Quinn and Kellen Moore.
Yeah. So what I'll say about the Cowboys job is, all right, so you said that the press conference for Schottenheimer went well. The only problem with the Cowboys hire is just Jerry Jones does not know how to get out of his way. Like, they're not all right. First of all, hiring the offensive coordinator for the head coach that you just fired is already a bad look. But Jerry Jones is like talking about, oh yeah, it's really risky and he doesn't have experience and blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, what the hell are you even trying to do? Are you trying to get Cowboys fans to like freaking stop watching? Or are you invested in more TV companies? You want them to break more TVs with a baseball bat before the season even starts because they weren't in the playoffs this year to do that? I don't know. And then the Jaguars, dude, everything about that situation was like horrible. Like the sneakiness, and then like oh yeah, we were able to, or like, I guess they weren't boasting about it, but like it's widely regarded that they were so secretive about it so they could get that last minute Rooney Rule interview with Patrick Graham.
Graham.
Yeah.
Bro. Oh my God. I wanted to talk about it last pod, but I kind of forgot. Or no, maybe it hadn't happened yet on the last pod, but I knew that I wanted to talk about it on the podcast regardless. Yes, to your point. They had the interview lined up with Patrick Graham Thursday after having done one with somebody else to, suffice the Rooney Rule, right? So then Patrick Graham would be the second one.
Robert Saleh did one interview, I think.
I guess Saleh would be, because it'd be in person. He wasn't with the team, so yes. But Saleh had another interview on Friday lined up.
Yeah.
And they made the hire on Thursday. But they had the interview with Pat Graham on Thursday lined up. And then Wednesday, I believe, was the day, maybe even Tuesday, was the day that Cohen backed off. I'm out of here. And then that day or the next day, they fire the GM. And that's when it starts trickling of like Liam Cohen, kind of doing, what? You fired him? Oh, well, in that case, after, it was said, he's going back to the Bucs on an extension. He's going to be the highest paid coordinator in the league, $4.5 million. Well, the other tricky or, sleazy thing that happened was part of the Jaguars fucking over, Pat Graham was also secretly saying, hey, Cohen, get back here. We'll do it, man. Maybe this was the Cohen aspect of like, he didn't want the deal with the Buccaneers to be off the table in case things fell through with the Jags. But the mentality was, it was announced. He's coming back to the Bucs, and the Bucs were ready for him to sign his contract on Thursday. And then he calls the head coach, hey, my kid is sick. And I'm actually, going to look into the Jags a little bit more, but, click. And then they're sitting there like, what's going on? Like, he was supposed to be here an hour ago. They can't talk to him. Like, they can't reach him, probably because he's in the building with the Jags trying to sign the contract. At some point in between that is when Pat Graham interviews, but they already have the intention of signing Cohen. Again, like we were talking about it last week or 2 weeks ago, like the Rooney Rule is just a joke. And this time, unfortunately, it's Pat Graham who gets the shit end of the stick. And frankly, like, I was listening to a podcast that was talking about it. I'm like, think about it more. Like, dude, I would not only be gutted if I were Pat Graham, because there were rumors that he was an actual, like, top 3 candidate for them. It was Cohen, Pat Graham, and Saleh. And then the rumor came out afterwards, like, oh, they actually had other interviews that they were going to line up too. Okay, sure. But, like, not only would I be gutted if I were Pat Graham, I'd actually be kind of fucking embarrassed.
Yeah.
I'd be like, wow, they really, like,
They
brought
just
me
used
along,
me.
wasted my fucking time. They used me.
Yep.
They totally used me, and I got a little excited about it, only for them to slam the door right in my face. Oh, yeah, the other guy that we actually want is actually in the building. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you know, we'll get you next time, but you know, definitely we'll call you first. No, dude, I don't get how this stuff can just happen like every single year, and like, you know, the NFL just decides that keeping the Rooney Rule is somehow less racist. Like, I feel like it's more racist. You know, what happened to Patrick Graham is more racist than not giving him an interview at all.
Yeah.
Because they just used him to satisfy the rule.
Yeah.
You know, with no intention of hiring him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think they had any intention.
Right. The Bears did a similar thing, but not quite as it was pretty obvious. With the Titans' old running back. Apparently he's the head coach at like some small college school that I've never heard of. Like,
Well,
let's just say it's like Mississippi State. Eddie George. The Bears interviewed Eddie George. Let's say it was Sunday. And then the next day, they're hiring Ben Johnson. And it was like, well, good thing they interviewed Eddie George, fucking Mississippi State head coach, who's never coached in the NFL, you know, just to get the Rooney Rules, you know, sufficed so that they could hire Ben Johnson before the Raiders get to talk to him. In theory.
It's humiliating. It's humiliating.
Yeah, like hopefully Eddie George had a fun time walking in the building.
Yeah.
Because that's yeah. Otherwise, it's just you're being used. Hopefully, you didn't have to pay for your plane ticket. You know.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Liam Cohen, though, this isn't the only moment that was like very cringe in his press conference. Like there was this video of him where he turns around and like he's got all the media behind him. And what I don't understand, like, all right, he's like he says Duval, like, you know, really loudly, but like they all like say it together. All right. Is that media people behind him doing that? Like the media isn't supposed to be like for the team. You know what I mean? Like,
I remember Antonio Pierce doing that once where he was like, can I get everybody in the room to just go Raiders? And they did. I've seen it, you know, but I agree. You know, it's kind of weird. It's kind of like, oh, you're being forced here, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like, I feel like a serious journalist would not. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Like if you're just trying to objectively cover the team, you know, like you shouldn't be on one side or the other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but I could see where if it were me and I was put into like I guess that social situation, like where it's like, hey, if none of us do it, it's going to be really awkward. Like,
yeah,
I could see where like I might just like say like I don't want to be that guy, but at the same time, it's like, you know, maybe the professional thing to do is just sit there,
right?
Because you're not like PR for the team, or you're not supposed to be.
Yeah. So with all that being said, you know, these other teams had at least weird moments in their pressers, and the closest thing that I could say was a weird moment, but none of these moments were weird. Like this press conference for the Raiders was as close to perfect as it could be, I think, really. And it even had moments that were genuinely funny. And I don't know, it's not even because I'm so excited and optimistic, cautiously, but still optimistic about these hires. But I laughed my ass off twice during this press conference, and I sent you both videos. So they're going to be in order going downwards. Yeah.
I know one of them. That's for sure.
So the first one will be Raiders, top one, yep. And the next one will be right below it.
I know that we have a...
Okay.
And for
this
the setup,
doesn't show... Wait, what?
Well, for the setup, Pete Carroll just started his opening statement, right?
Yeah.
And he just got done thinking Mark Davis, this person, that person, whatever, and now he's speaking. Go ahead.
This better be the full clip.
With our guys, I know that we have a good draw for people from out of town. There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Mark, settle down a little bit.
Yeah.
Dude,
I love that.
It was perfect, man, because he had just gotten done like thanking Mark Davis and blah blah blah. Hey, Mark, settle down. It was so, and it's like, play it again. Watch how he goes from like happy giddy normal Pete Carroll to like just faking it, super like.
With our guys, I know that we have a good draw for people from out of town. There you go. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Hey, Mark, settle down a little bit.
Just the delivery is hella funny to me, dude.
Yeah, no, that moment was probably my favorite moment in the press conference, because it's like, all right, Pete Carroll is charming and endearing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there is something like great about a head coach that has a sense of humor and isn't just always always super duper serious. Like Bill Walsh, one of the great stories of Bill Walsh when he was the Niners coach was before they played their first Super Bowl, he dressed up as one of the workers for like the bus company that they rode, like or maybe like the just like as a worker, and he was grabbing the luggage from the players. And then they were confused when they saw him dressed like that, and he was taking their luggages and like just to kind of like not be so serious about the game, not to be so tense about the game. Like, our coach is still loose and relaxed. He's not like very stressed and everything. And I think there's something definitely like it's very satisfying when a coach is like not incredibly serious 24/7. He can have fun, and Pete Carroll talked about it in the press conference that it's supposed to be fun.
Yep. If it's not fun, he's not doing his job.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. I'll get into all those for sure. The next tweet down. Oh, and just if anybody doesn't know, that was Marshawn Lynch that was yelling haters. When I first watched it, I was like, who let a fan in there? Like, I wish I was that fan. No, it's Marshawn Lynch, of course.
Bro, what if it was Antonio Pierce in the back, like
hire me? No, but next tweet down that I sent you is the other video that genuinely made me laugh out loud. And this was just before this moment, actually, where Spytek was finishing his opening statements.
To this day, he's like 75 years old. He can't give it up and win state championships all the time. So, Coach, I hope you're out there watching somewhere. I love you. Thanks for.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just a guy that loves football, just like you. A couple more here, then I'll turn it over to this guy.
Sorry, my bad.
Look, he's still coaching to this day.
He's talking about his high school coach.
Yes. And it was just the perfect way for Pete Carroll, like without him even having to bring it up. Spytek did it for him. But it was the perfect way for him to almost react to everybody that's saying, no, he's too old.
Yep.
And Spytek is giving all these reasons, he's 75, but he's still winning championships and blah, blah, blah. And he just glances over at Pete Carroll and just his humor. He just, why are you looking at me?
Yeah.
Like it was perfect. It was perfect, and I laughed my ass off.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, if there's a shot in there where it's the two of them, that could be our visual aid, and from here on out, I can go off my notes
Uh-huh.
if there's a shot in there, or if you have a
let's see.
photo or something.
Let me just pull this up right here. Open image in a new tab. Yeah, well, this is kind of small. Let me see. It's kind of blurry.
Yeah, I mean, you can zoom it out a little; it'll be fine.
Cool.
Yeah, that's fine. People know what they're looking at. Okay. So I'm just gonna go off my notes. You can stop me at any point. We could talk note by note, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
But I'm going mostly in order, but a little bit out of order. Okay. We already went over it, but Spytek was just super impressive. But mostly his opening statement was very much him thanking the people in his life, and him getting here and all of that. And it was very confident and impressive, right? So really getting on to Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll gave credit to Mark Davis for assembling a great ownership group to support Spytek and Carroll. He mentioned how valuable the ownership group of this franchise is, including having Tom Brady as part of it. When it comes to who has final say on roster decisions, Pete Carroll mentioned sharing the decision-making with John Spytek. Their relationship will be at the tip of the spear of this program. He said, "We are sharing everything. We are collaborating to the nth degree or nth degree. We are partners in this." And just a note, like I watched the Pete Carroll opening press conference when he first was hired by the Seahawks in 2010. I watched it maybe almost a week ago, because it was, last Tuesday, I started really thinking like Pete Carroll has to be the guy. And I watched it, and there's a moment in that press conference, I recommend anybody that wants to watch it. He says about John Schneider, the GM, "I'm going to make John Schneider the best GM in the NFL by working together, and having a great working relationship and, competing." It was stuff like that. He said it, and he wasn't wrong. Like, he did that. Moving on. Carroll and Spytek both emphasized relationships, teamwork, competitiveness, and the love of the game of football when talking about what they're looking for this team and what they're striving for. Spytek mentioned that one of the requirements they'll look for in quarterbacks is elite competitiveness, Tom Brady being the model for this competitiveness and love of the game. And they intend to lean on Tom Brady for his insights in looking for their QB of the future, obviously.
I do want to stop there,
Yep.
because that was one of the things that really jumped out to me. And I guess it coincides with this comment perfectly. FBA says, "I respect Aiden O'Connell, but the way they talked, our starting quarterback isn't on the roster." And that's kind of what it seemed like to me, was that, they are going to prioritize building a team around a quarterback. And,
Yep.
they didn't name any of the quarterbacks on the roster, but it seemed like priority number one, or one of the top priorities, is going to be a quarterback, because Pete Carroll understands the importance of having a quarterback, and what that does for a football team and how to build around one. So I think, step one, he has already addressed one of the main issues, which I guess isn't like, it's not a secret that the Raiders need a quarterback, but it's just beyond me how, like last season, the Raiders didn't even draft a single quarterback,
Yep.
or like in other regimes, there's an optimal spot, and they just don't take, they just don't take one. Like the Niners in 2017 did not take a quarterback when they needed one. They went with Brian Hoyer, right? And their plan was Kirk Cousins, right? There are people who understand and there's people who don't understand. And one thing that jumped out to me was in that Pete Carroll talked about how his conversations with Bill Walsh in talking about quarterbacks. He mentioned Walsh. I'm assuming he was talking about Bill Walsh and how I think it was around the part where he was talking about, quarterbacks, that he learned so much from Walsh on I don't know if he said like how to evaluate them, but I'd say Bill Walsh found Steve Young and Joe Montana, and if Pete Carroll got knowledge from him, he might know a thing or two of what he's talking about. And that gives me confidence right there. That is the perfect place to at least get advice or look into how to evaluate quarterbacks. Bill Walsh is the perfect role model for the quarterback evaluation.
Yeah. And Tom Brady is the perfect model, I would say.
Yeah. And leaning on Tom Brady, right?
Yeah.
Leaning on Tom Brady, one of the best to ever do it. Maybe even the best.
Yeah.
Him having an eye for quarterbacks. I mean, him being good at quarterback doesn't mean he'll have the best eye, but I'd say it would help. And what Pete Carroll said is that he wants to, forgot how he worded it, but he'll get some of his guys in here, but he'll also get new guys in here as well to learn. And then he also wants to retain some of the coaching staff for continuity. And continuity has been one of those things that you have been talking about for the longest for the Raiders, how you want continuity. That makes me think that he wants to keep Patrick Graham on this staff as well.
I'd like to think that at the bare minimum, there's already been reporting that they're talking to their defensive line coach for their defensive coordinator position. I forget his name, but I think I sent you the tweet, so we can look at it later. Mm-hmm. That'll be one of the last things on this topic. But I loved that statement when he said that. Like essentially for his coaching staff, what are you looking for? He wants guys that he's worked with before because obviously he knows that he can work well with them. He wants guys that he's never worked with before because, in essence, having never worked with somebody, I think for him gives this new layer, right? And you want people to be learning, right? At least that's something that he really looks for. Like I forget where I heard it, whether it was a podcast or one of his press conferences with the Seahawks, whether it was the intro or the outro. But, he is emphasized in his time as a coach learning how people learn, right? Yeah. Which is big because, I think some people are visual learners, some people are physical learners. Me personally, I'm a physical learner. Like I gotta repeat, rinse and repeat. Do it over and over again to get good at something. I can't just see a picture and be like, okay, that's rare. But there are other people that can see pictures and take notes or, do homework. And that's just how homework would be for me, the repetitiveness, but by just taking notes, they learn. For me, no, I'm not going to remember shit like that. I got to do it, whereas other people, it's different. So, it's a very, in his coaching career, he's focused a lot on getting to know the person, and not just like, oh, here's my philosophy, learn it. It's like each individual has to do things in their own individual way and finding that within them, finding which way is best for them within them. I'll get back to that. Actually, it's my last point. That was my favorite thing in this press conference. But okay, as far as the coaching staff, yes, I love that he wants people that he's worked with. He wants new people, but he also wants people to be retained from this current or previous year because of that continuity. I know on previous podcasts you mentioned it. I say continuity, and I thought about it more, and I was like, you know what? I think the reason why I do it, other than just not remembering what the proper way is to pronounce it, is because continuity takes a little less effort than continuity, right? It's like continuity, I have to really focus and almost slow it down, whereas continuity, it's just like it just rolls out. But anyways, continuity. He said it during his press conference, and I even was like, yep, there's that word. But it made me happy to hear that word because that's what I want, right? Stability, continuity, and obviously winning. So I like that, and it goes hand in hand with like having the assistant general manager. I'm forgetting his name, unfortunately, but having him around to help Spytek, Champ Kelly, thank you. Having him around to work with Spytek and really go in depth on the personnel coming in. That's huge. Same goes for the coaching staff, right? So I really like that a lot. And then you actually just started with saying this, but I'm just going to continue my notes. Pete Carroll emphasized surrounding the quarterback with a team that is built around the quarterback to support the QB in all aspects of the game, like the run game, obviously pass blocking, defense, special teams, everything, right? Surround the quarterback.
Yep.
John Spytek wants to build this thing the right way, and he wants to make Raider Nation proud. Obviously, I love to hear that. I got to see it, but so far I feel optimistic. Pete Carroll said that they intend to win immediately. He mentioned that it took his Seahawks a few years to be at the top in his last stint. So, one person I think estimated, let's just say it's a 2 to 3 year window that he sort of envisions, let's say, for getting back to where things need to be. And I know he in the press conference he mentioned like we're not looking at like 5 years, like it's something sooner than that is what he envisions. But it's going to take a little bit of time to get there, which I understand, and it's just realistic, But he has proven in his past couple tenures that he can absolutely fucking do that. And that's the difference between him and all the other coaches they've ever hired in the past 20 years.
Yeah, and he's experienced in building programs, at all levels of football. And then another thing that stood out to me is his, I want to say they asked him if he had any Al Davis stories, but just the fact that he's been around that long to have have been in the NFL during, the really, I guess, a good portion of Al Davis's, career, or I guess ownership of the Raiders, however you really, want to remember it. I don't have a lot of recollections, so that's why I'm like, kind of stumbling here. But, just people are worried about his age, but I don't know how you can watch this press conference and be so worried when he's so young at like mentally, and then that brings me to my next point. What stood out is he talked about how having a year off has really helped him look at it from the outside. I think he's hungry, dude. Like he was kind of going in circles in Seattle a little bit, but really, I mean, even when he didn't have a winning season, he would get at least like 7 wins on the Seahawks. Yeah. And I mean, we talk about the AFC West being stacked. The NFC West used to be stacked too. So yeah. I mean, he's no stranger to coaching in a tough division. Like this literally could not have been a better hire for the Raiders, I think.
Yeah, I honestly agree.
He gives me that classic Raider vibe too, a little bit.
Yeah. Yes.
And he's from the Bay Area.
Yeah. He had a line that was like, he grew up a Niner fan because of his dad, but the Raiders captured him at a young age too, or something like that. Which is cool.
Well, just, I mean, me being a Niner fan myself, like what I can say is watching this press conference reminded me of when I was young and I had to, narrow it down. Okay, one team I'm going to associate with. And then, part of me just, it made me happy a little bit because I'm like, all right, I could have, easily just, been a Raider fan. Well, not easily. Like that shit looks hard. I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want the Raiders to be shitty because all my friends and family, they're all either Niner fans or Raider fans. Like, I don't want you guys to just, be bottom dwellers for like the rest of your life. Like,
Yeah.
Especially it sucks because, I mean, knowing you, Mike, I mean, your dad got to live through like good days of Raider football, and you have never been able to experience that.
Yeah, the closest I got was ruined by a fibula.
Growing up, like, when I was in elementary school, like very early on in elementary school, it was like, man, it's the Raiders, right? Now when I think of the Raiders, it's like, there was a moment in this press conference where they said this, and it stood out to me. It's, the NFL is better when the Raiders are good, something along those lines. And I have to agree because, all right, when I was in high school, the last time the Raiders were good was 2016 under Jack Del Rio, and they were so fun to watch. My Niners were dog shit that year. They won like maybe 2 games that year, right? But it was still just fun to watch the Raiders win because the way that they were doing it, and like they came on the scene and surprised everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like this might be the most exciting hire or the most exciting turn of events for the Raiders since Jack Del Rio, for me personally. Like, and I liked John Gruden, but I didn't feel like it was the right time to fire Del Rio when they did. I still hold true to that, and I like Gruden.
And also the Gruden hire like felt kind of out of the blue of like, wow, he's been out for 10 years, are we sure he's still going to be good? Because he didn't end any good with the Buccaneers, and again, it's like, yeah, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it with Del Rio, So that was a whole thing, but yeah. So now the rest of the quotes and stuff that I have is really in line with Pete Carroll's philosophy. And it's just stuff that I had already kind of heard before, but hearing it in this press conference, it was just so fucking refreshing to hear from a Raiders head coach. And frankly, I'm just fucking fired up about Pete Carroll, dude. Okay, so Pete Carroll said, "The culture is the players, and you will see that, but we will show them the way. The culture is competing. You're either competing or you're not. If you want to be a great team, you need to be a great teammate. Teaching what that's all about and instilling that into the makeup of our program is going to be crucial. That's where it starts. If we're not having fun, I'm screwing it up. If you don't want to compete, you're in the wrong place." And then this next one is the big one for me. When asked, after accomplishing everything he could accomplish in his career, what is it about this new challenge that interests him? Pete Carroll said, It's never been about accomplishments. It's been about the game. Loving it. I really have realized when you get a year to step away from it, it's incredibly valuable. The last time I did that, getting a year away, was between New England and USC, and the rest is history. It hasn't been about trying to win the championship games so that I could put the banner or ring in my drawer. It's not about that. It's about competing. It's about being the best you can possibly be with what you have to work with and taking on the challenges of it and all that goes into making that happen for the players. It's the relationships with the players. It's building the mentality that everybody that comes into our program has their unique quality that makes them them. And I'm going to try to figure out what that is and find a way to bring that to the surface. And in doing so, you give everybody the chance to be as good as they can possibly be. That's what this is about to me. It's not just about the rings. It's much more than that. Motherfucker, that's a coach. That is a fucking head coach. Remember when we had a conversation about the best coaches, they're teachers? Pete Carroll is literally a teacher.
I think he was actually a teacher at USC. I think maybe this past year. Right?
Yeah, he's actually, at least I saw a report that he's still going to be teaching this upcoming year.
Well, I don't know how he's going to balance that in his head coaching,
Right. It's possible that he might do it remotely, but who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, that long quote really stuck with me, in part because it was a lot of stuff that I had already kind of recognized with his philosophy over the past couple of weeks, and even a year ago when he seemingly was out of the league. Not out of the league, but not the Seahawks I coach anymore. I had the final press conference, and I heard a lot of Seahawks fans sort of reminiscing on him and talking about him and his philosophies and stuff. It's just really good shit. And it's like, it's not just the thing that I think I really love about Pete Carroll is that it's not just about being a great head coach. Like, these philosophies and these things that he's teaching in people, it's about life, period. Like, this dude would be a great life coach. And I watched a podcast. I watched a podcast or listened to it at work. Where it's this guy, his name's Yogi. I guess he played for USC or something, but I want to send it. I'll find it and maybe I'll have you put it up or something. But it was a really good, like 50 minute podcast with just this guy and Pete Carroll a couple months ago. And they were just talking about all this stuff. And it's interesting hearing him talk about it. And it's just, what was the main point? Like, just, he teaches things that, all right, this guy Yogi came into his office at one point. I don't know if it was because he was like, I want to be a coach or I want to be whatever. Oh no, he went into his office to tell him, I need to be away for a week. I'm getting married. And instead of Pete Carroll being like, okay, see you in a week, you're adjourned, get out of my office, he sat down with the guy for the next hour telling him how to be a great husband. And like, in being a great husband, you have to compete. And this was the thing that stuck with me from this podcast was when he says all this stuff about competing, like, it's not the way that you think. It's not about winning and losing. Just like he says, it's not about the rings. It's about competing. By definition, what is competing? And I should have fucking wrote this down. Competing is striving for greatness. That is competing. That is the commitment to excellence. That is literally what he's teaching in his philosophy. You are striving for greatness. That's all it is. Whether it's on the football field, whether it's in a math test, whether it's being a husband or being a father, this dude gets it. That's what Pete Carroll is. That's the philosophy that he's teaching. It's phenomenal. It's so simple, yet it's so effective. And we've seen how effective it is. USC won 2 championships. The Seahawks almost also won 2 champions, but they did win 1. In large part because of this.
I'm just kind of glad, and maybe it's my fault, because I'm the one who like starts the discussion all the time on this channel. But I feel like the hiring of Pete Carroll means that we can stop arguing about whether or not they should have hired Jim Harbaugh. But I bring that up because you told me that your dad would bring it up. This hire is gonna I don't think your dad's gonna bring it up anymore as long as the Raiders are as long as the Chargers don't go on to win a Super Bowl and the Raiders are still right. You just see Pete Carroll filling up a diaper on the sideline,
Yeah. Literally, this is my last bullet point, is this next point. After his tenure with New England, Carroll looked within himself and found his philosophy. He then took 2 separate programs, USC and the Seahawks, on championship runs. I literally wrote this. Looking back a year, the Raiders had an opportunity at a coach with a similar story in Jim Harbaugh. This year, they seemingly right or wrong, and they get the right guy in the building. That's the way that I feel. And honestly, I almost, at least from the perspective of consistency, I feel better with Pete Carroll. I know it's probably, technically speaking, a shorter stint because of his age. And also, Harbaugh's a more offensive-minded guy, I think. So, there's that aspect to it. And the quarterback aspect, right, where Harbaugh's very hands-on with the quarterback, whereas Pete Carroll, it's more of, well, if anybody's going to be hands-on, it's Tom Brady. I feel great about this hire, dude. I love the philosophy aspect. I love that it's not just, X's and O's. No offense, like a Shanahan. This isn't a Shanahan hire. This is we got ourselves a coach, a life coach. It's different.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely agree. This rights or wrong, at least for right now, there's still football to be played and, success to be determined at the end of, the 10 years and whatnot. For all we know, Jim Harbaugh can go on and, become the next Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't anticipate that in the AFC,
Right.
I don't even know if Jim Harbaugh will ever win a Super Bowl, but I really like him. Pete Carroll, I don't know if he'll ever win a Super Bowl again either, but at least the Raiders right now have a high caliber head coach. They have a high caliber coach, and, Pete Carroll has been around the game enough where, I mean, he's a defensive guy. You know who kind of understands quarterbacks? I feel like defensive minds who have been around the game for very long might know quarterbacks a little bit better than a guy like Ben Johnson. Well, Ben Johnson played quarterback, right? Ben Johnson was a quarterback, but for example, Kyle Shanahan is an offensive-minded head coach, but he has the perspective of offense from his dad's scheme, which was predicated on the run, and he has the perspective from his perspective is the perspective of a wide receiver because that's what he played in college. He never played quarterback, right? So I don't think that he necessarily understands fully, the position. But Pete Carroll studies quarterbacks, and how to attack them defensively. So if he's able to watch on film what quarterbacks are able to do against a great defense, I think that he should know. And if he doesn't, he has Tom Brady and the Spytek, the guy who brought Brady, or one of the guys who was
responsible
responsible and involved in bringing Brady to the Buccaneers in the building. And Pete Carroll has been around the game for long enough to where I think that he knows people who are good quarterback evaluators. Now, whether or not they'll get an opportunity to get that quarterback is another discussion, but I have confidence in this hire more so than I did with Antonio Pierce, because that was my biggest question with him. Remember, it was all right. I was more in Team Harbaugh over Team Antonio Pierce because the Raiders need a quarterback, and I know that Jim Harbaugh knows quarterbacks. Antonio Pierce does not know.
Yeah.
No offense.
Yeah.
And if he did, he wouldn't have gone with Gardner Minshew, So, what else? Another thing that stood out to me is Pete Carroll mentioned that this isn't going to be a rebuild.
Yep.
He wants to win now.
Yep.
That's good. I think that's good news.
Yeah. And I like that both, even Spytek was, seconding that of we're not coming in here. Spytek has been on record saying he doesn't believe in tanking, and I think in going hand in hand with that is he doesn't believe in like accepting loss, of like, yeah, the roster's not that good. We're not going to be good this year. Like, there is no such thing as that to him. It's like there was a podcast I was listening to with him as the guest, and I think they asked him about like, when Brady retired, like, you guys were kind of looking at essentially cap hell for a year or two, and you found your way to Baker Mayfield on sort of a prove it deal, like what was the thinking behind that? And it was like, yeah, we weren't going in thinking, like, we knew from a roster construction and cap space allocating perspective of, at some point we have to pay the money, we have to bite the bullet on the cap hits, and now is the time. But that doesn't mean that we're gonna suffer for it. We still have our job of putting together a good team, and Baker Mayfield was a part of that. And essentially the thought process was, we're going to put the best team we can on the field, and the coaches are going to do what the coaches can do, and the players are going to do what the players can do. And they went to the playoffs 5 straight years with Baker Mayfield coming off of his Panthers and Rams season.
You mean 2 straight years?
However many years, but I'm pretty sure the stat right now is that the Buccaneers have gone to the playoffs the past 5 years.
Okay. I didn't know that you were also counting when Tom Brady,
Right. Well, but say 2 straight years, yes, with Baker Mayfield, like, not
Baker
expecting
Mayfield.
that at all. It was like, they are going to suck, and then and they're going to be at the bottom of the league. They're going to be drafting a quarterback next year, and now it's like, who's going to stop Baker Mayfield? We have no idea, and it was just them being competitive in making a roster that they feel can be competitive, and they did that, and they still won the division. That's the mindset that we have here, instead of like either people that are not suited to be a general manager, Mike Mayock, or a head coach, Antonio Pierce, or not being good at their jobs, Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels. That's not what we're dealing with anymore. We have people that are competent and people that will be competitive.
And not only that, so Pete Carroll is a very good, he's a great defensive mind in the league. He right now has weapons to work with on defense. He's got Max Crosby, who is, arguably a top 5 defensive player in the NFL. He has Christian Wilkins, who will be coming back from an injury. So it's yet to be determined, what his status will be. Robert Spillane, who's a solid option at linebacker, Trevon Merrick, and Isaiah Polamau is, Spillane and Merrick or okay.
And Nate Hobbs, and technically Polamau is too, but I think he's restricted, so he's more attainable. But those are probably, after getting the coaching staff filled out, those would probably be the next, priorities, is figuring out, like, this is where the continuity with Champ Kelly matters, of, hey, we should really re-sign Trevon Merrick. We should really re-sign Robert Spillane.
You know what, though? It's kind of good that they're free agents. All right. I know I was vouching for those players, but if Pete Carroll does not really care for them, he can move on from them.
Right.
But,
yeah,
if they do want to come back to the Raiders, I mean, with the familiarity and the fresh new energy of Pete Carroll, like, they can work there, especially if they keep a guy like Champ Kelly to, kind of bridge, the two parties. Yeah. But I mean, still, my point holds true for Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, and, well, I mean, the defensive line, I feel like, is,
No, I know. Honestly, I think the guy that really belongs in that line of playmakers on defense is Trevon Merrick. I think a guy with a little bit of potential, but we haven't fully seen it yet, is Jacorian Bennett. He's under contract for 2 more years. Nate Hobbs is up there, but he's inconsistent with his health, which leads me to think maybe they let him walk or at least hit the free agent market. And the guy that we haven't mentioned is Malcolm Kuntz. He's a free agent. But yeah, that's
But the
the
Raiders
topic
have
for
money to
another day.
spend.
They have the
They have
money to
money to
spend.
spend.
I think Merrick is the guy that's like you have to bring him back, and he fits so well with like at least previous Pete Carroll defenses, you know.
Yeah. But on the offensive side, Brock Bowers is, one of the premium players that the Raiders need to build around. But, not just around him, they're looking to build around the quarterback. So that's good too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a couple of these comments and then we can see where we're at, in what you want to talk about in regards to this topic, or if we want to move on. Mark Scott says, the Raiders are destined to be cellar dwellers, accept it like men. The Raiders should feel comfortable as the bottom feeders of the West Division. Swept by the Chargers. Oh my, just love it. Wow. We're already building that Seahawks-Niner rivalry with the Chargers and the Raiders. I can tell Mike is just thrilled.
Yeah. We had talked a lot about getting Tyler on the podcast, and I'm glad that we finally did. Tyler is our Charger fan friend. Clearly, he has a burner account.
Yeah. Mark Scott says, what is the difference between the Raiders and potholes? Potholes will one day be filled. Well, except if you live in certain freeways in California they're just always there.
Yeah.
But no, that's a good one. But Mark says, enough of the raising. I love Pete.
Yeah. I was going to say,
I love that you tuned in, even though you're a Charger fan or maybe just a Raider hater. Love that you tuned into the show. We can take it. Well, at least I can.
Yeah.
Look at Mike. Look at Mike's face right now. You made him frown. So it's.
Well,
okay.
I don't blame Charger fans for not liking the Raiders. It's a long history of what did Jerry Jones say? Glory holes?
Yeah.
No, but I was going to say the difference between the potholes and the Raiders is the potholes stay in Oakland.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's pretty good.
Anyways.
Frank says, Pete Carroll is younger than our last 2 or 3 presidents. Yes, a local old school coach sits fine with me and probably the other fans in my age group. I guess I was fortunate. I saw the Sea of the Hands catch at 10 years old, experience Super Bowl, is that 11?
That I don't know, but that's
Yeah.
probably 76.
Super Bowl
That'd be Stabler.
11
Yeah,
victory at 12. Super Bowl 15, at 16, and Super Bowl. God, I'm not a Roman numeral guy, but Super Bowl 18. Yeah, Super Bowl 18 at the tender age of 19.
Wow. You might be. Don't take this the wrong way. You might be exactly the same age as my dad because my dad, or a year older, because my dad, I think, just graduated high school when the Raiders won in '83. I want to say.
Plot twist. Frank is your dad.
There you go.
Frank says Pete Carroll has some of the qualities has some of the same qualities as Coach Flores had. I'm very happy with the decision to bring him into the Raider family.
Yeah.
The Raiders took a big step in the right direction. Hopefully Captain Kangaroo and Brady won't screw things up.
Yeah, you know what? That was a point I was going to make earlier when we were talking about Brady having a say in the quarterbacks. A big aspect to all of this is how well these guys mesh together and work together, because that's been an issue in the past for the Raiders is like Gruden and Reggie McKenzie. and then Gruden kind of just going 100% and kind of at times seemingly bypassing Mayock, with picks. And then there's the rumor that Ziegler wanted to trade up for C.J. Stroud, but McDaniels wanted Garoppolo. It's a rumor, but if that's true, it's like you're not working together. You're overruling each other. Like, if it's true what Pete Carroll said today of we are going to share the load, like we are sharing the responsibilities, we are working together. It's a relationship, as far as personnel and all that. Good, but it better work. And it sounds like Pete Carroll is very good at this, dating back to John Schneider with the Seahawks. But the other aspect, in a way, the mystery aspect, is Tom Brady and the quarterbacks. Does Tom Brady, as part owner, walk in and say, hey, you're taking this quarterback right now in the first or second round? Because, frankly, I don't think either of the top quarterbacks, this is a little off topic, but I don't think any of the top quarterbacks are top 6 worthy, I'd rather go with a blue chip player like we got last year in Brock Bowers. I'd rather get another one of those guys to surround the team, right? And that's what these guys are talking about. And I love that sound of that. But is there this mystery element on draft day where Tom Brady's in there and says, you got to take Shedeur? Sorry. When we could have got Will Johnson, a potential premier corner in the league, or a premier defensive tackle, a premier offensive lineman. I'd rather have that than a bullshit quarterback when we could just draft a quarterback in the 3rd round. I'd rather have the 3rd round quarterback that might not be as good, no shit, but it's better than forcing it, right?
Yeah.
So point being, we can't have Brady or Carroll or Spytek, putting the fist down and like, sorry, it's my way or the highway. We can't have that.
It's got to be a collective effort, collaborative, sort of decision. Man, I started cracking up because I just remembered there was a moment where, well, I don't know where I want to start with this, but so Spytek mentioned, I think he pointed at his wife, and he was like, you guys are going to know my wife, she's going to be a big part of the community. And I just started remembering what Chandler Jones accused Mark Davis of doing.
Oh God. Right.
And I'll leave it.
Story there. Well, completely reverse. Like the Chandler Jones, if you know, that was all just wild. That was peak Josh McDaniels right there. And completely out of Josh McDaniels, grip. Like just you couldn't even ever predict something like that would happen. That was completely a health thing for Chandler Jones, mental health. But on Spytek, he said that, and I didn't bring it up in part because I forgot to put it in the notes, but in one of those podcasts that I listened to, revolving around Spytek, he mentioned in that he and his wife had a daughter, their firstborn kid, and she unfortunately had I think he called it congenital disease, and she died within like a year or two, and it's obviously devastating. We've had stories like that in the past couple of years with players and stuff. And essentially what he
couple this year for the Niners,
like
Trent Williams and Charvarius Ward.
Yeah. And it's sad. So essentially what he was saying in the podcast, or that he was asked about in the podcast, I guess, was, coming out of that, it was like, well, we can do nothing about this or we can do something about this. So he and his wife made a, what was it called?
Charity.
A charity, a charity. Or a private organization, or whatever you call it. But I believe it's a charity. Yeah, something like that, revolving around that disease, right? And it's
Mhm.
like every year they get X amount of thousands of dollars donated and stuff.
Like a
and it's just-
foundation.
Foundation, thank you. Yep, that's exactly it. And it was just, him explaining it. It was cool, and it goes in line with that, like, not necessarily competitiveness, but just like striving. Like instead of just doing nothing, it was like, no, we should do something about this because
Yeah.
too many other people don't do something about this. That was kind of their mentality on it. And obviously it comes from a place of love, which is obviously strong. But I just hearing him talk about it was really. It was a cool mindset to me, and I think that's where he was kind of coming from with, or just the way that she is in relating to like Tampa Bay. Like, I think it was similar with her in Tampa Bay of like, it's not like she, how do I say this? Like they do their part, and that's cool. So that's what he means. Obviously saying that she'll be a big part of the community and stuff is like, I don't know. It's just, you don't hear that much about GMs. You hear that about players, maybe coaches. I don't think I've ever heard about that with a GM having like foundations and like, oh, we're going to be a big part of the community. I've never heard that. It's stuck with me, anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like John Lynch has done a good job, or at least, at first did a good job, like engaging with the community. And I feel like there are other general managers who like do a good job.
I'm sure.
It's
just, you don't hear about it. I guess that's my point.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we live in today's society where the only news you hear is bad news. You don't ever hear good news.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Good news is never fun. Frank says that he turns 61 next month. Happy early birthday, Frank.
Yeah.
Man, I have to say, so the last time the Raiders were like consistently good, you were in your 40s. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But you got to witness your team win not just Super Bowls, the very first Super Bowls in all of them in your franchise's history. I haven't witnessed a single one, and Mike hasn't either.
Yeah. And it's almost crazy hearing my dad sometimes, like when my dad gets on a rant, like we were talking about the Chiefs and we're just pissed off. Like, I can't believe they did it again. God damn it. I mean, I can, but we're just pissed off about it. And, all these consistent coaching hires and cycles and yada, yada, getting our hopes up and then down and the shit and then hire a new coach and all this stuff. It's like every 2 years, I have to hear my dad say, we should have won 3 Super Bowls by now. Like since 2002 or like since the 80s. Like we shouldn't be this dog shit, poverty team. That's not what the Raiders are. Like in my dad's perspective, because he lived through it, is they're one of the greatest franchises ever, but you and me, it's like, no, they're not. Right.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, if they had just done things the right way, they should have won multiple Super Bowls in our lifetime. But they don't. So hopefully they.
I mean, it's similar. It's similar. Like Pia's dad mentions how much more Super Bowls the Niners should have won. Given their history.
Right.
Well,
I'm sure Frank could tell us about the 70s, dude. The Steelers just had our number.
Yeah. 49er Media says, when are you guys going to talk about Brant Boyer? That's our next topic. Mike, do you want to wrap up your thoughts on Pete Carroll, or did we touch everything?
I think we touched on everything, and I think we gave our opinions already. So, it was a good press conference. That was a really good press conference.
Yeah, I agree. And, I have to say, the Raiders finally do not have a coach who's incompetent. I don't think Pete Carroll at any stage has ever been. So,
and I think in your tweet that you put out, you mentioned, or somewhere you mentioned, that this offseason already feels more fun than the Super Bowl. Yeah. Like this press conference and these hirings make me so excited for this offseason. It's not even funny. Just
next year genuinely feels like, all right, the Niners have a last place schedule, and they're theoretically going to be healthy with a healthy Christian McCaffrey and the Super Bowl at home. Like, the stars are lining up for one last run. Robert Saleh coming back, and that's a perfect segue. The 49ers have hired Brant Boyer, right? We're not getting Nick Sorensen. He's gone. And according to, was it Frank or 49er Media? It was one of the two. I think it was 49er Media said the Cowboys are hiring Nick Sorensen. We're not messing around with this crap. Like, all right, we didn't do like a formal topic of Robert Saleh being hired, because like we were sitting on the couch just right there. We were, it was my brother's birthday, and we were celebrating, getting ready to celebrate pretty much. I mean, the party was going on outside, but we were like, we got to talk about this because Pete Carroll, it was official that day. And Robert Saleh also just had become official. It's like, all right, we can't wait any longer. Got to talk about it. So Brant Boyer was on the coaching staff with Robert Saleh. So that's already good that, if Saleh has already been in the building for a couple days, and obviously Shanahan and Lynch are familiar with Saleh and they trust him, and they were willing to. I didn't hear any contract details, but I heard that they were willing to make him the highest paid, coordinator in football, which I think is the right thing to do because there's no salary cap. So you should always try to get the best coaches. So Brant Boyer, what's nice about him is that he has been on like 3 or 4 different coaching staffs on the Jets alone in a row. I want to say that he was on the Saleh staff. He was on the Adam Gase staff, and whoever was right before Adam Gase. It's like, slipping my mind. But I think that just goes to show that, I think he was good enough to at least not be let go, by a couple coaching staffs, right? Obviously, Ulbrich took over as the interim head coach this year. He's not going to make drastic changes. He's just like running the team until he's not. That's pretty much like what interim coaches are. Pretty much, it's like, all right, well, we decided to fire our guy. You're just gonna like, we have to have somebody in that position. That's pretty much that. But I mean, I don't know too much about Brant Boyer. If you have a strong opinion in the comments that you want to talk about whether the Jets were really strong on special teams or not, I do feel like I'm just happy it's not Nick Sorensen. That's how I feel right now as a fan. Like, I was very worried a couple weeks ago that the 49ers solution for their, poor defensive and special teams was just that, all right, we're kicking out Brian Schneider, and then we're just going to like demote, hold on, my AirPod died. Let me throw this one in. We're just going to demote Nick Sorensen to special teams coordinator, and we're going to demote Brandon Staley from, well, I guess promote might be the technical term, to go from assistant head coach to defensive coordinator. I thought that's the move that they were going to make, and I was not for that. I like that they brought in a serious guy who's, actually has experience as a special teams coordinator. Now, will the special teams get better is going to be a different question, because you can have a good coordinator, but the 49ers need to prioritize getting, players who kind of specialize in special teams again. Like in the past, they brought in a guy like Oren Burks or George Odom to sort of be special teams players. And even in the past, Raheem Mostert was brought in, I think, to be a special teams player before he like took over as the main running back in 2019, But let me see. 49er Media says, I am so hyped for this offseason too. It's already been off to a great start, but off seasons are not one on paper. Yeah. I know they're not one on paper, but the vibes right now, oh my God, they could not be trending in such a greater direction, for the 49ers. Last season, it was like, all right, we had just lost the Super Bowl, and already the contract negotiation had just begun between Brandon Ayuk and the Niners, because Ayuk, he was crying at his locker room, doesn't know if he's going to be back. He just wants to be a champion, and then you had his girlfriend or significant other, I don't know if it's his wife, saying, this is why we're not coming back. We're going to be in Vegas next year, something like that. And, all the cryptic tweets of like, don't, or maybe Instagram stories, because I don't recall Brandon Ayuk like really tweeting. That was more Deebo Samuel, like when, Deebo just out of nowhere will just start tweeting, and it's never a good thing. Yeah. But Frank brings up a good point. Niners special teams probably can't get much worse.
Yeah, that, and also I'm just looking at his. I think I might be echoing a little bit on your end, but I'll just go ahead for now. As a coach, he was a training camp intern for the Cleveland Browns 2009, intern with the Giants 2010, assistant special teams coach for the Colts from 2012 to 2015, and then from 2016 through 2024, almost 10 years, 9 seasons, he's been the Jets special teams coordinator, dating back to before Robert Saleh. And then just scrolling down a bit, looking at his time with the Jets, all they have here, Boyer was named special teams coordinator for New York. In 2021, despite the Jets' 4-13 record, Boyer's special teams squad ranked second in NFL according to DVAO.
No, I was just saying what's up to the numbers. The numbers is in our comments. Nice. If we just got done talking about the Raiders, so feel free to share your thoughts. But if you want to catch our Pete Carroll reaction, it was just rewind maybe to about an hour 40.
Yeah. And if you want to see me, have a rage fit, scroll back to the beginning of the Bills Chiefs
AFC Championship. Yeah. What were you saying, Mike?
Well, just what I noticed from this hire for the Niners is that they're getting a guy who has north of 8 years of experience coaching special teams and has been successful in doing so with the Jets. So that sounds a lot better than having Sorensen, right?
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I think the biggest thing maybe to take away is the fact that this is a guy, Brant Boyer, that has outlasted multiple coaching regimes with the Jets. Like he was the one consistent thing, seemingly, for the Jets. That's got to mean something.
Did I misspell his name? Oh, shit. Oops. All right. Sorry. It's Brant Boyer, not Bryant Boyer. I don't know where I got Bryant from. Brant Boyer.
Let me see.
I think, I was like maybe combining Brian Hoyer and Brant Hoyer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you probably were. Huh.
So
I didn't even notice it. I searched Bryant Boyer and Brant came up, and I just didn't notice that it was different.
So I don't know if I need to go into YouTube and fix that, if I can do that right now while we're on the pod.
Right here. Now it's different. Oh, you're saying for the I gotcha.
For the title.
For the title, yeah. I think at the very least afterwards you can update it, I think.
Yeah, so good news, everyone. The 49ers did not hire Brian Hoyer, okay?
Yeah.
Great news. We still need a backup quarterback, but they did not go after Brian Hoyer. Okay.
There you go.
That's on me, okay? I am
good.
not going to get hired as the special teams coordinator anytime soon.
Oh.
Well, definitely not the spelling coordinator for the Niners.
Yeah.
No, but let's see. Frank says being successful with the Jets wasn't easy, I am sure. That is what gets me, I guess, a little bit excited, is because Woody Johnson fires coaches very prematurely. And, sometimes owners will just clear out house And I guess really it mainly happens like when you hire a new coach that they'll clear out the coaching staff and bring in the guys that they want to bring in. But the fact that he was retained not once but twice on the coaching staff, I think is a good sign that, I don't necessarily have a lot of memories of I have memories of the Jets messing shit up, but not like special teams like, oh man, they missed a game-winning field goal, or oh man, the Jets just muffed a punt. Like,
bad penalties, nothing like that.
And if it's somebody who worked very closely with Robert Saleh, I think, that reinstills my confidence that, Saleh probably vouched for him, and, the 49ers are going to get a guy who is at very least solid at the position. I know Shanahan is more of like I don't want special teams to ruin it for the team. Like, I don't want to lose the game on special teams, which has happened fairly often,
Right.
He just wants fair catch and this stuff and that, but we'll get probably a better feel for Brant Boyer when, we get his press conference. And I don't think that they've done a press conference for Robert Saleh yet. Maybe they were just waiting to get this hire done, and then they can probably do 2 press conferences that day or what. But
I don't even know if they do press conferences for coordinators. Maybe they do, but if not, they might have an early press conference. Like, I don't know.
Well, they did a press conference when Nick Sorensen got hired, and it was, why do you feel like they hired you? But I don't know if that was like a couple months had gone by, and it was just the first time that they got to speak to him.
Yeah, like training camp. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. What I do know is that I am very excited about Robert Saleh coming back, and I am very excited that special teams theoretically should be better. And 49er media says that was during rookie camp, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, probably. That would make the most sense. So we might not hear from any of the coordinators until, what is that? Like
after April?
May?
Yeah.
Because the draft is probably end of April, right?
Yep.
So yeah. I don't really have much else to say about it, but I wish I did, because we just spent God knows how much time talking about the Raiders hire, but there was more to actually talk about.
Right.
We saw like a full-on press conference, and special teams. I'm being a little hypocritical. Like, I should pay attention a little bit more to special teams, but there's way more offense and defense that goes on in a football game, but you don't want special teams losing you the game.
Yep.
I do enjoy taking your guys' comments about it, though, because it helps me sort of, if I get multiple perspectives, I'll know kind of the gist of how everybody's feeling about it. Any Jets free agents you would want Saleh to try and bring in? People have floated bringing back Javon Kinlaw, but I'm not as interested in bringing back Kinlaw. I think not Robert Saleh. I think Solomon Thomas might have also been there. I would be a little bit more interested in Solomon Thomas than I would be Kinlaw, because I feel like Solomon Thomas is a little bit better defending the run, and neither of them are really that good, that great of pass rushers. One thing I will say is there definitely would be a lot of interest from me for a guy like DJ Reed. I think DJ would be, a good player to poach from the Jets. And
so
Gardner's not going to be available, but I would take him. He likes Robert Saleh.
The first person that I thought of that I believed was a free agent and is true, I don't know if this guy, I want to say he was drafted before Saleh got there, but Ashton Davis, I liked him coming out of Cal at safety. Also, I just learned recently Hassan Reddick is going to be a free agent. That's interesting because he's had good experiences. It's just this Jets experience was not necessarily good for him, which means he'll probably leave. And somebody's going to get an interesting edge defender, pass rusher. And I could see something like that working pretty solid opposite Boza. But then again, what's his name? Floyd is on a 2-year deal, huh? So he still has another year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
So
Floyd could be the complementary player, But then again, they're both pass rush specialists, and the 49ers struggled to stop the run. So they also have to, kind of – they can't just go full on, all the eggs in one basket, especially if probably next year they're going to have to go against Detroit in the playoffs, who loves to run the football, and against the Eagles, who that's what they do is run the football.
Yeah. I'll give you 2 names: Javon Kinlaw, Solomon Thomas. You ever heard of them?
I mentioned them. I literally those were the first names that I mentioned, and I said I'm more interested in Thomas than Kinlaw, but really, not 49er media doesn't want either of them.
Yeah.
Solomon Thomas. Weren't those the good old days when we passed on Patrick Mahomes and we got the defensive lineman of the future?
Right. Let's take this back to the take it back to your roots. That's what you got to the Super Bowl.
Because a quarterback can only take you so far. They're a rookie. God, what can you really do with a rookie quarterback, right? A guy like Kirk Cousins, though, now you're talking, right? Brian Hoyer, Kirk Cousins, sign me up. Frank says, Saleh is really solid, so I am sure anyone he campaigns for is more than worthy. I agree. I love Robert Saleh. I think he's very sharp, and if he does vouch for someone, I give Robert Saleh the benefit of the doubt, and I think that's what Lynch and Shanahan did. Hassan Reddick wants to get paid. Yeah, me too.
Probably.
So tell the Niners, sign me up. I'll do it for 1/55th of the cost that Reddick will do it for.
Yeah.
Although maybe I would do it for a little bit more, because if I go into the NFL, I am going to get embarrassed. 49er media says, I wouldn't mind a guy like Jamin Sherwood. I'm not too familiar with Sherwood.
I feel like I've heard of him, but I don't even know if he's from the Jets or a different team.
Let me look him up. Sherwood. Or Jamian Sherwood. He is, what is he, a line? Yeah, he's a linebacker for the Jets. Yeah, that actually could be a guy that they add to the staff, because they might not bring back Dre Greenlaw, and they're kind of thin at linebacker.
They're going to add him to the staff?
To the team.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Special teams linebacker from the Jets who is a free agent. Yeah, so especially I just talked about adding players who are, special teams specialists. If they want to improve in that area, which they should because they lost so many games because of it, then yeah. That's really all I got. Having a new coordinator is always, it's not always fun. Right. I don't know. The Niners they could have hired a worse guy. I would not have felt too confident if it's Nick, they would have just retained Nick Sorensen. And then I guess Sorensen chose not to come back too, because he felt like it would just be a little too awkward, which, I understand. I bet it would be. But with that, that's all I got.
I just sent you one tweet. Just one last little update before we get out of here. This isn't on the Brant Boyer. Wow, you really got me there.
Yeah, I messed up big time.
But just back on the Raiders front really quick, the Deshaun Reed one that I sent you. Just the rumor right now as far as the DC candidates so far is Patrick Graham being retained, the defensive line coach Rob Leonard being elevated, and then also Seahawks defensive backs coach Carl Scott. And then as you see in the comments, interestingly enough, Gus Bradley has not been named as of yet. That's a guy who used to be our defensive coordinator, but also has the ties to Pete Carroll and was recently let go of by the Colts. But those are the three hot names right now. And then at offensive coordinator, I haven't seen any like official word or official rumors from like, insiders, but I know Darrell Bevel, the Dolphins pass game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, is the hot name, if you will, or the hot rumor.
You know who's a name that I could see the Raiders taking from the Niners coaching staff?
I don't know, but before you answer that, I will say I wouldn't be shocked if Tom Cable is the Raiders offensive line coach. Get another Raiders reunion for him. But my guess would be your quarterback's coach, whose name I'm forgetting.
No. You're talking about Brian Greasy?
Yeah. I don't know why I thought you were maybe going there.
No. I am talking about KJ Wright.
Oh.
He played for Pete Carroll, and he's on the 49ers defensive staff.
Yeah. I'm curious if they are looking at Patrick Graham, and if Patrick Graham is, intrigued in staying here. At that point, hopefully you keep Rob Leonard if he doesn't go elevate somewhere else. You try to get Carl Scott for your DB coach if you can keep Pat Graham. At that point, I wonder if Graham is the defense coordinator. I would expect a lot of guys to stay on the defensive staff, unless you have a few guys that Pete Carroll or somebody has really in mind. Like one name that I know Raider fans don't really care for is Ken Norton Jr. He was a defensive coordinator and at the bare minimum linebackers coach for Pete Carroll for a long time. And he eventually was the defense coordinator for us, and it was terrible. But that might have also been a big personnel issue, right? But, that's probably a topic we'll have. Actually, we'll probably have the answers when we do our next pod because, like I said earlier, I don't think we're going to have much of a reason to have a pod next weekend unless we want to talk about the fucking Pro Bowl, which I doubt we will. So, getting a little week break and then coming after the Super Bowl, hopefully by then we have some hiring, some coordinators hired and, the staff figured out.
Mm-hmm. Before we get out of here, I do see this tweet down here. It says PG with praying hands emojis. Could you imagine? Depending on what era of Raider fan that you're talking to, PG could stand for two different things. We think of it as Patrick Graham now, but at a certain point, PG could have been Paul Gunther. Wasn't he Raiders coach?
Yes. You and I have talked on the phone multiple times, and I try to say Pat Graham, and I slip out Paul Gunther. And it annoys me every time because I could not stand Paul Gunther. And I actually really like Patrick Graham. So every time I do that, I get so upset with myself. But for some reason, Paul Gunther's name is really memorable, and Patrick Graham, for some reason, isn't.
Mm-hmm. 49er Media says, I think KJ Wright will stay since he knows we will develop him as a coach and go up the rankings. Yeah, I think there's multiple avenues for him. Like if he wants to, let's just say Pete Carroll, which I don't think this would happen because I think KJ Wright right now is just a defensive quality control coach. But if Pete Carroll went as far as to, bring KJ Wright in as the defensive coordinator and bring him along that way and kind of streamline the process, I could see that happening.
If
because
he's a quality control coach right now, his next elevation that would make sense to me is linebackers coach.
Linebacker coach. Yeah.
And it also, I didn't even consider KJ Wright played for the Raiders, so it really does make a lot of sense, you know.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
think he
it
did,
makes a lot of
unless I'm
sense
wrong.
to me if he wants to go that route. Or, I mean, because here's the thing. There's an avenue where KJ Wright doesn't move up with the Niners. But I do think, all right, if we're projecting that Robert Saleh is going to do such a good job with this defense that he is probably going to get another head coaching job maybe in a year or two. And he leaves. Saleh is more of a linebacker coach, if I remember correctly. And then theoretically, I don't know if Nick Sorensen was also a linebacker guy, but he's off the staff. They're probably not going to keep Brandon Staley. Thank God. Honestly, the whole not keeping Brandon Staley thing, there's half of me where I'm like, yeah, it just makes sense to not bring him back, and like he really hasn't been that successful in the NFL. But the other half is like, that way I don't have to hear Tyler mention like he's hate watching the 49ers and like, oh man, I love that Brandon Staley is bringing upon the Niners downfall. Like, because Tyler's a Chargers fan and Chargers fans hate Brandon Staley. But as I was saying, KJ Wright could theoretically be promoted to linebackers coach for the Niners if they lose Saleh within the next year or two. And before we get out of here, OC Nation has a message for you.
Just like Marshawn Lynch. I'm not yelling right now.
Why not?
I am hyped up, but for some reason
for OC Nation, I will give them the is it Boomer on Monday Night Football? The Raiders. Whenever he does his Monday Night Football recap, I love watching it because he's like getting through all the games like so quickly, and then it's like, the Denver Broncos versus the Raiders. Like just he doesn't do that for any other team, but he'll do it for the Raiders, and I love it. And that's coming from a Niner fan.
Yep.
But anyways, we appreciate everybody for tuning into the show. That's going to be it for us today. We want to just thank OC Nation, 49ers Media, Frank Weber, The Numbers, Mark Scott, FBA G Code, Emerald Night Photos, Pia, and everybody else who tuned in and was not able to comment. OC Nation says that's the inner Raider in you, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, man. I mean, I grew up in the Bay Area. I have Raider friends. I mentioned it. I don't hate the Raiders. Sometimes I laugh just at the ways that they find ways to lose, but I don't have any Raider merchandise. I'm a Niner, Niner at heart, but I'm not gonna just I'm not gonna be irrational, because there is that kid, sitting down and really picking my team. I used to play as the Raiders in NFL Street. You know what I mean? I really chose the Niners because of how much I love the San Francisco Giants. But even as much as I love the San Francisco Giants, I never hated the Oakland A's. Like, I just enjoy sports. So that's all I have to say. I'm a Niner fan. So stop it, OC Nation. Frank says, hey guys, thanks again. I was very happy to catch you live for this one. Try to enjoy the festivities of the Super Bowl, regardless of the disappointing participants. Hey, disappointing for America, but look, the Raiders finally got their head coach, and the Niners finally got their defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator. It's good times for everyone else. I mean, it's good times for us, not everyone else.
Right. Yeah, I'll survive if the Chiefs win. I was being a little over dramatic earlier of like, I don't care if the refs ruin this game. Like, I want it to be a good game. At the end of the day, as far as enjoying the festivities, I'll just make sure that I'm surrounding myself with, people that I want to be around at some sort of party-like function, as many appetizers and whatnot that I can have, and I'll be good.
Mike just wants to surround himself with a bunch of alcohol. Doesn't want to remember the night one way or the
Depending
other.
on where I'm at, quite possibly.
Yeah. Mike's going to drown away the pain of being a Raider fan.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Oh, at the buzzer, Lecky. Lecky, thank you for tuning in. It's the end of the show, but the good news is on YouTube, you can rewind. We always appreciate your continued support and sharing your thoughts. That's it for us. Mike, any last words?
Jesus. Raiders.